Honorables, prayers. Almighty God, we humbly beseech thee, look with favor upon this Parliament of the Republic of Ghana. Grant that it may perform its high duty as in thy sight. Give divine guidance to the President of the Republic. Endow members of Parliament and ministers of state with discernment and vision, integrity and courage, that through the labors of government, this land and people may be well and truly served, and their good purposes for the common human life be realized in our midst. Amen. O God, grant us a vision of our country, fair as it might be, a country of righteousness, where none shall wrong his neighbor, a country of plenty, where evil and poverty shall be done away with, a country of brotherhood, where all success shall be founded on service and honor shall be given to the deserving, a country of peace, where government shall rest on the will of the people and the love for the common good. Bless the efforts of those who struggle to make this vision a living reality. Inspire and strengthen our people that they may give time, thought, and sacrifice to speed the day of the coming beauty of Ghana and Africa. Amen. Honorable members, correction of votes and proceedings, and official reports. Votes and proceedings dated Wednesday, 14 February 2018, page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, page 5, page 6, page 7, page 8, page 9, page 10, page 11, page 12, page 13, page 14, page 15, and page 16. Honorable members, in the absence of any corrections, the votes and proceedings of Wednesday, 14 February 2018 are hereby adopted as the true record of proceedings. Official report dated Friday, 26 January. For consideration of honorable members. Any corrections, please? In the absence of any corrections, the official report of Friday, 26 January 2018 is hereby adopted as true record of proceedings. Official report dated Saturday, 27 January 2018. Any corrections? In the absence of any corrections, the official report of Saturday, 27 January is hereby adopted as true record of proceedings. Honourable members, questions. If the Honourable Minister for Gender may please take the appropriate chair. Honourable Member for Kita, in whose name the question *275 stands. In his absence, Honourable Minister for Proceedings.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Honourable Member for Kita, Honourable Kwashiga, have asked that I seek permission, and if granted, I should ask the question on his behalf. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
You may continue.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to ask the question on behalf of Mr. Richard Mauli Kwaku Kwashiga. It's not mine. The Minister for Gender, Children and Social Protection, what steps are being taken by the ministry to monitor the quality of food served by caterers in beneficiary schools throughout the country under the school feeding program? Thank you.
Honourable Minister.
Good morning, Mr. Speaker and honorable members of the House. I wish you a happy Valentine. Working. To answer the question, Mr. Speaker, the basic concept of the Ghana School Feeding Program is to provide pupils in public primary schools in the deprived areas with one hot, nutritious meal on every school-going day, using locally grown foodstuffs. The steps the ministry is taking to ensure that quality of food is served by caterers in beneficiary schools under the Ghana School Feeding Program include the following: the usage of the 4-star diet plan, which constitutes the proteins, carbohydrates, fats, and oils, to meet the 30% recommended daily allowance to improve the health and nutritional status of pupils. In line with this objective, district-based menus have been designed depending on the agroecology of the district. Caterers are also trained in the use of handy measures, which are designed in collaboration with development partners, including World Food Programme, Partnership for Child Development, and UNICEF. The handy measures prescribe the correct amounts of ingredients that caterers are required to use for each meal. Caterers are trained on how to use the handy measure to ensure the nutritional values of the meals prepared. This training is to ensure that caterers cook with the right ingredients. An example of portion of rice served is 1.5 ladles for the kg, 2 ladles for P1 to P3, and 3 ladles for P4 to P6. Mr. Speaker, indeed, I have brought samples, and if with your permission, I would like to show the sheet that we use for the handy measures. Also, we have a sample of the size of boiled plantain for the children and the size for the tuna fish. That is also used. Also, we serve yam, and this is the size that we use. Mr. Speaker, other training programs are organized periodically in the areas of health, sanitation, best cooking practice, and others. Another step being taken by the ministry is the monitoring mechanism at all levels. This activity is carried out daily on a sample basis. Zonal coordinators monitoring the quality of the food served in the schools from the preparatory stage to the serving of food to the pupils. They are provided with a checklist of the food served in the schools and how to check on the usage for the 4-star diet plan, the prescribed menu chart, and handy measures for compliance of a balanced diet. Indeed, I have copies of the samples of the menu chart, Mr. Speaker, of all the various schools that we serve school feeding. I also have a copy of the monitoring documents that we use for monitoring school feeding here. Mr. Speaker, also at the district level, head teachers are assigned the responsibility to complete a retirement form that allows them to gather daily data of meals served by the caterer. In addition, supervision is also provided by the school implementation committees and district implementation committees. We have a copy of the summary fund, retirement fund here for all. Mr. Speaker, evidence-based. Monitoring is further done by the regional coordinators at the regional level, and they undertake routine monitoring to also ensure compliance. Mr. Speaker, at the national level, monitors include nutritionists and monitoring and evaluation officers who analyze the data from the districts and regions and evaluate to guarantee that quality standards are being maintained. The national coordinator of the school feeding and the ministers also embark on periodic spot checks to ensure that the caterers are adhering to the required standards. The information gathered from the above-mentioned monitoring activities is also used to develop further training and monitoring programs. Mr. Speaker, to ensure strict compliance, caterers are served with warning letters, and in some cases, caterers' contracts are abrogated for non-compliance. Mr. Speaker, as part of efforts to ensure that food is prepared under health safety measures, caterers are mandated to undergo health screening in the areas of typhoid, hepatitis B, and tuberculosis, and they present a health certificate. We wish to inform this august House that the feeding grant has been increased from 80 pesos to 1 cedi per child per school-going day for the second term of this academic year. Although the increase to 1 cedi seems paltry, this increase would encourage the provision of more nutritious meals. Mr. Speaker, in spite of the monitoring mechanisms, there are challenges with the school feeding program, and the ministry is strengthening and intensifying the monitoring mechanisms that it has in place to help achieve the desired goal that we all want. Some of the challenges are the lack of kitchens and eating areas. Mr. Speaker, there is also a laudable initiative from the President to give every child of school-going age a cocoa drink per school day to ensure they are well-nourished and to help reduce stunted growth. The implementation will start soon to complement the program. We wish to implore this Honorable House, all communities, parents, teachers, and pupils to get involved in our collective responsibility of the monitoring of the Ghana School Feeding Program, because we are all stakeholders of the development of our children in Ghana. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Honorable.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity. Mr. Speaker, on page 2 of the Minister's prepared answer, paragraph 5, I should think so. She says that to ensure strict compliance, caterers are served with warning letters, and in some cases, caterers' contracts are abrogated. Would the Honorable Minister be kind enough to tell this House how many such caterers' appointments were terminated as a result of non-compliance? Thank you very much.
Honorable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, when we took over in January, at the end of 2017, July, the contracts of the previous July of 2017, the contracts of the previous caterers ended, and Mr. Speaker, new contracts were put in place for them to start in September. Thank you very much.
Honorable Minister. Honorable Member.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to ask the Minister when the cocoa drink program, that is cocoa drink per school, for each of the children will start. When exactly should we expect this?
Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We're trying to put in place water to provide cocoa drink. There's a need for all the schools to have water. And so we don't want to start the program when all the schools don't have water. We are working with the Ministry of Sanitation and Water to ensure, but it will happen this year. And as soon as we put the necessary details in place, I will inform the House.
Yes, Honorable.
Thank you so much, Right Honorable Speaker. Respectfully, I want to find out from the Minister when are they going to effect payment for the work that the caterers have done. It's becoming a problem for honorable members that you see these caterers coming to our offices, in our homes, even they accost you on the road to try to assist them with some funds to enable them continue with the buying of the ingredients and to continue serving the children. I want to find out from the Minister when are they going to effect payment for the first term and the second term, the status of the payment. Thank you very much.
Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In terms of the payment, the contracts with the caterers is for school feeding to be pre-financed because the amounts come from the Ministry of Finance. And so until those amounts are released to the ministry, we cannot pay. Indeed, previously, sometimes it took a year or 6 months or 3 months before caterers were paid. School feeding is pre-financed. But we have been able to negotiate with the Ministry of Finance to decouple school feeding from the common fund. And so now it's with the Ministry of Finance, and we can request for the monies as and when. For this September of last year, that is the first quarter of the first term, to December, they will be paid before the end of February. We finalized all the necessary programs that we have to do with the Ministry of Finance, and the warrant has been released to us. And so we are going to ensure that all payments are effected before the end of February. We apologize for the delay, but we would want MPs to convey the message to caterers that school feeding is pre-financed. Thank you very much.
Honorable Minority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. Mr. Speaker, I have just two follow-ups. One is for the Minister. This is the first time, Mr. Speaker, I'm seeing plantain which is rectangular. You want to show your rectangular plantain. Plantain from Osuta as we buy it, there is no rectangular plantain. So, Mr. Speaker, that's just an observation. But my question is, Mr. Speaker, the caterers borrow money to cook, and their headache is early payment, because when there are delays in payment as it is, their income is chiseled, and the profit never realized. What urgent steps will the Minister take to ensure that they are paid early?
Honorable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, in response to the shape of the rectangular piece, it's just a demonstration of the weight of the food that we serve. Everybody knows this is wood, and that plantain is not rectangular. On the issue of borrowing, we are also very concerned about delays. However, we inherited a very big debt. When we took office, school feeding had arrears from the previous administration of 114 million. And it was the government of President Nana Akufo-Addo that actually paid it in March. And so we have come far. We are now going to pay it in February instead of March. And as it's a work in progress, we will be able to reduce the delays, understanding that we also want to empower women economically. So it is not a deliberate matter. It all depends on the funds that were left in the coffers and how we will manage the economy and grow it so that we will be able to meet the needs and demands of all our people. Thank you very much.
Honorable Minority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, my final is, in the Minister's answer, she has announced a laudable policy, page 3, and to quote her, Mr. Speaker, there's also a third paragraph. There's also a laudable initiative from the President to give every child a cocoa drink per school day. When will this commence? No, there are schools which still are not benefiting from this. When will all other schools, noting the nutritional differences of the school people, be implemented? Thank you.
Honorable Majority Leader.
Yes, Speaker, I believe the Minority Leader was otherwise engaged when this very question was asked, and it's been answered too by the Minister. My problem is that we want the same question has been asked to be asked again and the answer to be repeated. It's because it's the same question.
The objection is upheld, and honorable members will move to the next question. Honorable member for Proceedings.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to ask the Minister for Gender, Children and Social Protection what measures the Minister is putting in place to stop the migration of women and children from the Upper East, Upper West and Northern regions to the urban areas to work as head porters, in brackets, Kayayi.
Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The KRA phenomena has been in existence since the early 90s due to the pull and push factors that include extreme poverty, poor parenting, and other harmful social-cultural practices such as early child marriage, forced marriages, female genital mutilation, trafficking, elopement, peer pressure, and the desire to seek greener pastures. This unfortunate phenomenon is largely prevalent among women and children in the northern, upper east, and upper west regions to become headquarters, truck pushers, and beggars. Some of these KRA also engage in menial jobs and serve as shop assistants and petty trading. Others also come and engage in KRA to find money to pay their school fees and or organize marriage popularly known as Amaria. Mr. Speaker, this KRA phenomenon is not only an unfortunate phenomenon, but it is a tragedy and an abuse of the human rights and dignity of our women and girls. And so as a matter of urgency, the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection has over the years developed various programs and interventions to reduce and eradicate the migration of rural women and girls to the urban centers. Indeed, these women and girls face several disturbing challenges. These challenges include rape, unwanted pregnancies, the risk of sexually transmitted diseases, various ailments, drug abuse, crime, trafficking, prostitution, and even sometimes death. And so, Mr. Speaker, in the MPP manifesto, under the Women's Empowerment and Children's Rights, we said we will reduce the KRA phenomena by improving the economy of their districts of origin to curb the migration. We also provide alternate life skills training and seed capital, as well as partnering the private sector, NGOs, and charities to provide temporary hostel facilities. To this end, in collaboration with the Youth Employment Agency, we are offering for this year plans to train an additional 1,000 and more to provide them with decent jobs, following the 400 that was trained in 2016. Again, the ministry plans to collaborate with other public and private partners, such as the National Board for Small-Scale Industries, the Ghana Investment Fund for Communication, and the National Youth Authority in skills training for the women. Mr. Speaker, the new LEAP cash transfer will ensure that girls and women who are very vulnerable and extremely poor are kept in the regions of where they come from, by including them in training, providing them with startups and tools, as well as mentorship in their communities of origin. The ministry further plans to link women in these regions to the government's initiatives of the One Village, One Dam and the One District, One Factory to make them more economically independent in their districts of origin. Indeed, Mr. Speaker, the ministry has initiated a program dubbed Operation Get Off the Street Now for a Better Life. The objective is to reduce the phenomenon of persons living on the street, such as street children, KRA, hawkers, the destitute, beggars, persons with disability, persons with mental health problems, and the like. The strengthening of families and reintegration will be enhanced through the Operation Get Off the Street Now for a Better Life, so that everybody on the street will be taken off in the next 5 years. Every child of school-going age will be taken off, and we will work with the Ministry of Education to ensure that beginning from September 2018, a percentage of the children of school-going age will be in school, and the others will be given skills training. We are not encouraging them to stay in the cities, but in terms of their dignity, Mr. Speaker, we need to provide these necessary amenities for them whilst they are in the cities. And so we will collaborate with the district assemblies, traditional authorities, faith-based and other organizations and institutions to help achieve this program of taking off these vulnerable people from the streets. Mr. Speaker, the children are as young as 6, 7, and 8, and I have pictures of some of the children here who engage in kayari instead of being in school. It is a tragedy for all of us. Mr. Speaker, the ministry is going to engage in strong community-based advocacy to encourage girls to take advantage of the free senior high school program to ensure that they have access to employable skills for a better life in the future. In 2018, the ministry, as part of our programs, will link vulnerable women, especially those from the Upper East, Upper West, and the Northern region, to enable them access funds for mass law. This will further empower them economically to take care of their families, especially the girl child, and hopefully keep them in their communities of origin. The ministry is therefore in the process of engaging with development partners to develop structures to accommodate the KIA starting from this year. We also plan to link these vulnerable women into smallholder farming programs through the Planting for Food and Jobs initiative. The ministry is also establishing social protection district committees to help in the advocacy in the communities and districts. The creation of child protection committees are being initiated as part of the structures to implement the child and family welfare policy. The ministry wants to resurrect the National Plan of Action that requested for the setting up of community committees in 2011 to reduce gender-based violence. As part of our interventions, Mr. Speaker, the ministry will advocate for the modernization of our markets to make sure that nurseries and other facilities are provided. Mr. Speaker, the ministry is also working with Gratis Foundation to manufacture trolleys and with garment industries to develop uniforms for the women who want to take up portraiture as a profession in collaboration with the district assemblies. The ministry again wants to collaborate with service providers to increase access to potable water, good sanitation, and expand targeted community outreach in the areas they stay in on health services to improve their total well-being. Mr. Speaker, in conclusion, the KIA phenomenon is neither a profession nor a vocation for any child or woman of Ghana. In the new Ghana that we seek to build, we should instill into our vulnerable people a strong sense of self-esteem, self-worth, and the importance of education and training for decent jobs. And so, we are calling upon all stakeholders, including your good selves, to come on board to eradicate the KIA phenomenon and break the intergenerational poverty cycle. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in paragraph 5 of the minister's response, she mentions the issue of shelters and training to be given to KIA. I would appreciate if the minister could tell where the training will take place, where the shelters will be, and when the training will start, because the issue of the training is just 2018, and there is no specific time but the year. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We have various shelters in the country. I promise that I will bring them on my next visit, and this is it. We have shelters in the Western region. STMA shelter. It's actually in Takoradi for boys and girls who are destitute. We have the Andreas Manor, is also in the Takoradi area. We have the Esipom Remand Home, also in the Western region. National Shelter, Jomolos Shelter, Obatampa Mental Home for mentally ill patients. It's in Apremdu. We have Madame Fo Children's Home in the Volta region. It shelters about 20 children. A shelter by Challenging Heights is in the Brahafo, Sunyani, for trafficked children. We have Don Bosco Home for street children, also in Brahafo. We have Central Destitute Infirmary in Bekwa. We have a remand home in Ashanti, Patmos Children's Home, also in Adansi North. Mr. Speaker, also in Ashanti, we have Kiku in Ejisu Juabe, Cherubs in the Kumasi Metro, Asham Children's Home in Kodia, Nana Deborah in Mampontein. We have the Osu Shelter for Children in Accra, Echoing Hills in Medina, the Ghana Society for the Socially Disadvantaged have a place in Medina for the Kayayi, and we have a remand home in Wa. And so these are the shelters that we will be sending the different categories of persons on the street. In the area of the trainings, we wrote a letter to the youth employment, and we are going to have a meeting this month with the National Youth Authority, and then have a Kayaye model for the training. We cannot tell you now when the training will start, and as soon as that is determined, we will inform the House. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in the Minister's response, I listened keenly because most of these people who are affected, the women and children, they come from the three northern regions, Upper East, Upper West, and Northern region. But in her responses, I realized that there is only one such a place that could be converted or used, because in her response, she was mentioning homes instead of the shelters, and most probably those homes have areas that can be used. I can't tell. Are we going to transport, especially all those who are in Accra and the other urban areas, to those places she has mentioned for the training? And if we so do that, how are they going to get acclimatized with the fact that they need to be in their own home regions and districts so that they don't return to the urban areas where they cannot find life easy? Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Those shelters are not training centers. The shelters mentioned are shelters for persons on the street who need places to stay, because as I said, Operation Get Off the Streets includes the Kayayi, and we need to move them into places. Some of them have homes, and so we'll be organizing reintegration of families for those who have homes. But as I mentioned, in the training, in the northern region, Upper East and Upper West, they will not need to come to the cities. The training will be organized in their districts, because we do not want them to come back to the cities, because we want to minimize and eradicate the Kayaye phenomena. We cannot continue to encourage Kayaye. And so the shelters are largely in the cities, and that is where there is the higher prevalence of persons who engage in Kayaye. They need places to live in. And so as we discover them in a place like Sherops in Ashanti, they take in 1 to 9-year-olds. So children who don't have families will be put into those homes. But for the children who have families, we will try to locate their families and encourage them. Indeed, the list of pictures that I showed you is of children who are interested in going back home. As I said the last time, we are in the process of mapping and developing a database of all persons on the street. Indeed, we've had several engagements, and the actual mapping will commence this very Monday, 19th. And as we progress, we will be able to give you more information. Thank you very much.
Honorable Zimato Rollins.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Zimato Rollins.
Speaker. Allow me.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In the minister's report, she mentioned that more trainees of the YEA program would be employed. When she attended the graduation of the previous KIA who passed through the training last year, she did promise them the jobs. How many of the 400 trainees have been given jobs since that graduation? Thank you.
Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We've only been able to get 2 into jobs. Yes, because a lot of people are not interested in engaging the KIA. And even the 2 was initiated by the ministry. We have written letters to various other organizations, and as and when they will be able to engage, we will send them. Some of them have also gone for interviews and have not made it. Getting a job is not about you wanting to have it, but you have to go through an interview process. And so the initiative of getting them into jobs is a laudable one, and I will pray on the House that when you have catering programs or you need secretarial activities, you can come to us to get some of these girls engaged. Thank you very much.
Question. That will be the last question. The question time is running out.
Yeah.
And we have to conclude.
The phenomenon of KIA is largely due to the gap between the North and the South economic activity. I think until we have a law that makes it, please, it's a foundation, please. Until we have
honorable members, order. A question can be prefixed.
Yes.
Honorable members, it is legitimate to prefix a question, please. Order.
Yeah.
Honorable, continue.
With all the efforts from the ministry, the phenomenon will be there for a long time until there is a law that makes it unlawful to pitch or picket at the ministries at KIA. I want to know from the minister whether this is something that the ministry is contemplating, to have a law that makes it unlawful at a point when you picket or pitch at the ministry. Thank you very much.
Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Indeed, we have plans to come up with a national framework to end the KIA strategy and to have a bill to stop it. We did the same with human trafficking as well as with child marriage. And so it is part of our work plan this year to come up with the national framework policy to eradicate the KIA phenomena. Thank you very much.
Question star 278.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Honorable Member of Parliament, Alaji. Are you here? Oh, okay.
277. That's Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I rise to ask the Minister for Gender, Children and Social Protection when the affirmative action bill will be laid in Parliament.
Honorable Minister. Honorable Minister, you may have the question repeated if you didn't get it. Would you like the question to be repeated? Please proceed.
I'm bewildered because there was another question on the elderly. So I thought that was
Don't worry. Answer the question you will asked. We'll come to
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The affirmative action bill is long overdue, especially as Ghana has over 50% of her population being women, and the other half being born by women. In spite of our constitution, in which the tenets of the rule of law enshrines the principle of gender equality and equity, there are still gender imbalances in Ghana, emanating from our patriarchal and socio-cultural systems and norms. To effectively redress social, cultural, and economic gaps, the AA bill must be passed this year, 2018. And so the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection has embarked on a review of the AA bill, which received cabinet approval in 2016 to reflect the ideals of the ruling government as is customary. To demonstrate the commitment of this august House, we are imploring this House to pass the affirmative action bill because affirmative action is not a women's issue, but a national development agenda. The accelerated development of women is a major determinant of the growth of a nation. And so it is worth noting that the AA bill also includes provisions for persons with disability as part of efforts to promote their rights and well-being for full productive inclusion. The AA bill, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Minister, tell us when it will be laid.
It is currently at the Cabinet Secretariat for discussion prior to Cabinet approval and subsequent submission to Parliament. This before you rise, Mr. Speaker.
Before we rise?
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
By way of the question, this is all we need.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes. And for that matter, we'll continue with question 277. Honorable Member for Pusiga, ask your question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Limited follow-up because we have 7 minutes to conclude question time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, my question had been responded the last time the minister came to this House, because it is on the issue of homes for the elderly. And during the response of the minister as at that time, she had mentioned that we do not actually have homes for the elderly in Ghana.
Honorable, so ask your question as on the list, on the...
Mr. Speaker, I am not asking the question because she had responded to it earlier on.
And you are satisfied?
Yes, please.
I thank you very much. There being no statements admitted, we move to item 5. At the commencement of public business, papers to be laid. Honorable Minister, you are discharged. Honorable Deputy Majority Leader, can you make the presentation of papers?
Rightly so, Mr. Speaker, and the chairman of the Finance Committee will do so. All the 3 papers are ready for presentation, Mr. Speaker.
Paper item 5I. Thank you.
Report of the Finance Committee on the taxation use of fiscal electronic device, Bill 2017.
Honourable, the paper is presented and is for distribution. Aye.
Report of the Finance Committee on the standard for automatic exchange of financial account information, Bill 2017.
The paper is laid, is for distribution to honourable members. Aye.
Report of the Finance Committee on the Special Petroleum Tax Amendment Bill 2018.
The paper is laid and is for distribution to honourable members. Item listed 6. We continue with the debate on the State of the Nation address. Honourable Deputy Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, respectfully, I want to seek your leave under Order 53 to vary the business, and respectfully, if we could take item number 6, which is 9, item number 9, Mr. Speaker.
Item 9.
Item 9, which is the Special Petroleum Tax Amendment Bill, is a motion, and the Deputy Minister for Finance is here to do it.
Please.
Item listed 9. Honourable Minority.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, yes, we agreed that this could be taken today. But Mr. Speaker, that's what has not been laid for distribution. And I thought that we could take one item and come back to do it, but to just lay and follow immediately to take it. Members, so Mr. Speaker, I hope that we can do one other item, then we can come back to it, so that at least gives members time to read. Because we just laid it. And it's not proper that we just lay and then we move on to the business. So, even the distribution, as I'm told, is not even completed. So,
Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Deputy Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I've just been, the Finance Committee Chair has just indicated to me that this motion or this referral was determined under a state of emergency, certificate of emergency. And so for that matter, there's some urgency attached to this bill that would be presented. So, Mr. Speaker, I'll just crave the indulgence of leadership on the minority for us to take this very motion. The report is already in circulation, and I see him holding one. So we can take it briefly and then return to the debate on the message on the state of the nation, which he knows very well, that usually it travels into hours. So if we start with a debate, to break into the debate and then come back to the to this motion, I mean, even for purposes of recording by the table office, will not be that that colorful. So I will just indulge. I want to indulge the minority leadership for us to take item number 9. Then when we step into the debate on the message of the state of the nation, it can be systematically presented by members who will be given the opportunity to debate. So, Honourable Muntaka, if you can let us take that motion. Thank you.
Minority. Good.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, like I said earlier, yes, we had that understanding that we want to take it today. There's no doubt about that. But, Mr. Speaker, with the greatest of respect to the deputy leader, it doesn't sit well if anybody takes our hands up to see that something is late. The moment is late, and our standing order 75 says it has to be laid before distribution. Then the moment you lay, you move immediately to take it. I'm saying that, Mr. Speaker, this has been done before. We can start the debate. After two contributions, you break into it. You take before you conclude the debate. It's been done before. Instead of just laying and moving straight to take the business. Because, Mr. Speaker, the deputy majority whip just handed over a copy to me.
Yes, you haven't read.
In fairness, I'm saying that we will take it as promised by the understanding among us that we'll do it today. But I'm saying that let's take, even if it is one contribution, so that we give members some little time to go through. It's not bulky, Mr. Speaker. It's just about 5-6 pages, so that we can then break in and come back to it. It's all just laying and moving straight into it, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Majority Deputy Leader.
Mr. Speaker, the reports that we're talking about by the Finance Committee, which I've indicated earlier, was considered under certificate of urgency. Mr. Speaker, if it's a normal motion that is being moved or a normal referral that is being made to the committee, then, Mr. Speaker, we can do this breaking in and breaking out of the debate and taking it. But there's an urgency attached to the issue that is before us, that the report and the committee is reporting to the House on, so that and their ranking members are in the know. And minority whip, as he said, was also discussed, and we've taken the decision at the leadership level that we'll take this because of the urgency of the matter. So, Mr. Speaker, he has copies. He has a copy. It's a one-item. Amendment to the special tax that is being reported. So, Mr. Speaker,
Honorable Muntaka, what is the minimum time you will consider reasonable for the reading of this small document for us to proceed? Order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I think a good 20 minutes, members should be able to grasp.
How many pages, sir?
Mr. Speaker, I said a good 20 minutes.
How many pages, Honorable?
No, the pages are 6 pages. 6 pages. And I'm saying that within 20 minutes, members should grasp
all honorable members.
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Cooperation is important so that work will continue. How many minutes?
Mr. Speaker, I'm saying that 20 minutes. 20 minutes. Yes, will be good.
We will continue with the debate at any given time after 20 minutes. I will halt and we shall proceed with this bill. So as
Mr. Speaker, I agree that we will do it. But Mr. Speaker, I'm just drawing your attention to the fact that it's a 5-page report. It's just the 6th page is a signature.
It's just a signature.
The 6th page is a signature. And to allocate 20 minutes for a 5-page document. I want the Honourable Minority Whip to probably work within 10 minutes because it's just a 5-page report.
More minutes are ticking away.
Right.
More minutes are ticking off. After 20 minutes, we will come to this debate so that there is a win-win situation. That's all. Honorable Fifi Kweti.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute to the motion.
Leadership, sorry, sir. Leadership, for avoidance of doubt, we want to confirm the minutes agreed upon, which I'm going to adhere strictly to.
Mr. Speaker, unfortunately, if the people could come up, because Honorable Fifi is a ranking, so as agreed, you take 12 minutes.
Thank you. Please proceed. Honorable, are you satisfied? Thank you. Please, Honorable, proceed.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Thank you for the opportunity to contribute to the motion. Asking that this Honorable House thank His Excellency the President for the message on the State of the Nation address. Mr. Speaker, let me begin by congratulating the President for the first year and to admit that it's not possible for any president in the history of any country to spend first years without some achievements. So congratulations for some of those achievements that definitely have been shot. But it's important to stress, Mr. Speaker, that we need to start making a transition from merely recapping what we call nominal achievements and to start discussing the real achievements. Now we're talking about a government that actually rode on the crest wave of populist promises made to the ordinary people of Ghana. Promises to the effect that indicators per se don't really mean a lot. What matters is the real conditions of the ordinary people. Now, if that is it, it means we should not really be discussing so much the state of the nation as the President did, but much more the state of the suffering of our people. That really should be the crux of the conversation. Because this government came to power largely on the back of the fact that they were suffering all over this country. Suffering in every nook and cranny of Ghana. No one was spared. Now, to come to office and literally come and do exactly the same thing that the previous government did, which has to do with speaking about indicators, is simply not good enough. But Mr. Speaker, before I go into that, let me talk a bit about some of the indicators that the President sought to literally glorify his own and he and his government about, creating the impression as if these were indicators that really have not been seen in this country before. I heard the President eloquently congratulate his Vice President and the economic management team and created the impression as if the economy that he had inherited was in so much distress, choked by debts, and that the macroeconomic fundamentals were in disarray. First, let's talk a little about the issue of debt. It's important, Mr. Speaker, that as a country, we make that necessary transition away from looking at debt purely as a number. Because you see, anybody who mentions debt but forgets to understand that the necessary investment is what actually should be the crux of the discussion has lost the plot. Now, if you, lament about debt, and while at the same time boasting about growth, and that growth came about because of the investment that had been done in the oil sector, because of the investment that had been done in the cocoa sector, because of the investment that had been done in the transportation sector, in the educational sector, in the health sector. You completely gloat over that, and yet you complain about that, while as it was celebrating the growth which came about as a result of those loans that were obtained and turned into investment that have brought about the growth that you are boasting about. It simply shows that you are being very, shall I call it, one-sided. You're not actually being very truthful to the people of the country. So it's important for us to make that transition. I can appreciate in the beginning of this whole multi-party democracy in the year 92, let's say 93, 97, 2000, 2004, if we make some of this. But after having gone the journey we've gone, it's important for us to start making a little transition away from this. Mr. Speaker, the President spoke also about the revival of what he called the industrial sector, and actually copiously said that from a growth rate of negative 0.5 in 2016, the country is now seeing 17.7% in 2017. Now, what the President did not say was that that growth in 2017 was largely attributable, one, to oil, and two, to what you call the solution that was brought about as far as the energy crisis in Ghana was concerned. And that solution was brought about by the predecessor government. So while trying to create the impression that the predecessor government left nothing but a mess, What the president should have done was to acknowledge the vital contribution done by the previous government in solving the energy crisis and also making those necessary investments as far as the oil sector is concerned, which today has brought about the growth that the president is so proud about. It's important, Mr. Speaker, that we start making these important transitions as a people. Now, let me also go a little more into some of the other numbers. The president actually spoke very happily about the fact that they reduced the fiscal deficit from 9.3% to an estimated 5.6% of GDP. And literally congratulated his finance minister for a brilliant job that's being done. My question is this. The predecessor NDC, in the year 2009, took over at the time when deficit in the previous year stood at 14.5% of GDP, which is historical, which is in all our budgets that have been debated in this House in 2009 and again in 2010, and that is historical. Now, if the previous government met a deficit of 14.5%, and within a year brought that deficit from the level of 14.5% down to 9.7%, which means in net terms, the previous government reduced it by 4.8%. Now you take it from 9.7% and reduce it to 5.6%, which in net terms stands for 3.7%. What you have done, though commendable, is actually far less than what your predecessor NDC did in the year 2009. Because we took it from 14.5, brought it down to 9.7. That is far more than moving from 9.7 to 5.6. Yet you make the pronunciation that that predecessor government achieved little, while you actually have achieved much. Now, if you had achieved what we had achieved in 2009, I'm sure by now the whole of this country will have no peace. Because you will boast and boast and boast until Jesus arrives. It's important for us to hasten slowly. When we are in a hurry to want to boast of our achievement, let us be mindful that other people prior to us have actually attained even far more than we have done. Mr. Speaker, let's go a little more into some other statistics. Mr. President spoke about the fact that inflation has actually seen a decline, which is true. Inflation actually, at the time the MPP came into office, January 2017, stood at around 15.4%. At the close of the year, it was brought down to about 11.8%, which actually is a commendable effort. And every government must make an effort to rein in inflation, because inflation is not a friend to anyone. But what the board should have taken into account is this. A predecessor government met inflation at 18%. As a result of the difficulties that have been left behind by the MPP in 2008, that inflation figure moved very quickly to over 20% by May of 2009. The NDC government at the time took it from that 20+% and brought it down to single digits in the period of 1 year, 1 month. By June 2010, we have brought inflation down from over 20% down into single digits. And yet, this country did not come to an end because of boasts. Then you have a situation where you are barely struggling to move from 15.4 down to 11.8, and we are not going to have any end. You're talking about what? Some economic results. We're talking about some, some avatars of economy. Please, be gentle. Be gentle. Take your time. Take your time. Anyone who understands this business knows that in the first year of every government, the real political pressures have not even started to tell yet. No, you have got a lot of room to maneuver. You have a lot of goodwill. The people of Ghana are ready to give you a little space. The real difficulties are coming down the road. That is when we will be able to see how your capacity is. So this hurry to want to boast because of some first-year achievement, it's important for us to be gentle about it. Now, Mr. Speaker, while talking about it, it's also important to understand that achieving some of these macroeconomic fundamentals at a time where you are literally not doing the kind of heavy investment in infrastructure as the previous government did, is really nothing to boast about too much. When you take office, and then you will literally come and you paralyze effectively the Titles Assembly Common Fund by taking out quite a bit out of it, doing the same to virtually all the other statutory funds, making it difficult for those funds to do what they used to do, which has to do with the real investment that actually is the foundation on which this economy is going to be propelled. And at the end of the day, you tap yourself on the shoulder that your numbers look good. You very much are like a parent who keeps a lot of money in his bank account while refusing to honor the day-to-day responsibilities of that parent, taking care of the children's fees, taking care of the necessary things to be done at home. That is nothing much to boast about. Do that investment. Do the kind of investment that was being done by the NDC across various districts. I mean, the kind of development that was going on, and be able to achieve these fundamentals, then we'll be able to say, yes, you really are doing something. So there again, I want to say, the boast should be measured. They are too much in a hurry to want to boast. Take your time. The real measure is not so much the economic fundamental. Because with that alone, listen, we have been able to achieve 14.4, almost 15% growth in this country in the year 2011. If not, I mean, what you have is almost half of that. We are not boasting, having achieved that unprecedented growth. So please take your time. Take your time. When you reach that level, come and let's listen to exactly what you have done about it. Mr. Speaker, it's important again to understand that the most important consideration, especially for the people of Ghana, has to do with unemployment. And this government rode on the back of that difficulty and promised, especially the young people of this country, real jobs. I'm not talking about some 2x4 jobs, some temporary jobs. I'm talking about real jobs, concrete jobs, sustainable jobs. That is what this government promised the people of Ghana. And for 1 year, I mean, nothing has been done. Virtually little has been done in that domain. That's why even the president really shied away from the issue of unemployment, shied away from the issue of jobs. As far as this statement is concerned, you can see that he barely touched it because he knew deep down that nothing really has been achieved. And that is the most important thing. Now, talking about the real state of the nation, I will say that the real state of the nation, in conclusion, the real state of the nation, Mr. Speaker, has to do with the fact that vibrant companies in our country, like for example, Sonitrust of this world. Sonitrust at the beginning of 2017 had about 1,000 workers. At the end of 2017, it reduced from 1,000 to 50. That is the real state of the economy. That is the real state of the hardship of the country. So it's important for us to be measured in our joy and take our time because the real difficulties have not yet been resolved at all. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. Item listed 9, motion. Minister for Finance. Honorable Minority Leader.
It's not yet.
Mr. Speaker, the indication I got was 20 minutes, and we've just exhausted 12 minutes. So there should be one other from our side that will make up the time for 20 minutes.
Honorable Deputy, who is moving the motion?
Mr. Speaker, the Minister for Monitoring and Evaluation will do the...
Very well. Honorable Minister for Monitoring and Evaluation.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that item number 9 on the other paper page 4 be moved now.
Thank you very much. Seconded by Honorable.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to second the motion.
Thank you very much. Honorable members, the procedural motion has been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. The motion is carried. Item listed 10. Motion.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move
that the Special Petroleum Tax Amendment Bill 2018 be now read a second time. And in so moving, I want to say a few words about the object of the amendment. Mr. Speaker, the government is seeking to move from ad valorem taxation to specific taxation. The reason being obvious is that when you have ad valorem taxation and prices go up, you get the consequent change in prices and vice versa. So, Speaker, this is creating a lot of hardships for businesses and consumers. This matter has been discussed extensively in Cabinet, and the government is moving to be a listening government. So, Speaker, the change in policy is consistent with the objective of moving from more taxation to more production so that there will be less introduction of new taxes. This has been the policy of government since it first read its first budget, and this is a continuation of it. Mr. Speaker, the government is not moving to abolish it completely for obvious reasons. But we are aware that the movement from ad valorem to specific will necessitate a slight reduction in revenue, which we intend to make up through tax measures of tax compliance. Mr. Speaker, the bill is is being moved as a certificate of urgency because even though the pricing window is coming this Friday, once it is done, the MPA and the marketeers will be able to factor this in their pricing. So with those few words, Mr. Speaker, I beg to move. I thank you.
Thank you very much. Chairman of the committee.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to move that Mr. Speaker, I associate myself with the motion on the floor, and in so doing, I'll present the committee's report. Mr. Speaker, I will ask that the Hansard Department capture the report in its entirety as I speak to sections of it. Mr. Speaker, pursuant to Order 119 of the Standing Orders of the House, the committee determined and hereby certifies that the bill is of an urgent nature and should therefore be taken through all stages of passage in one day. Mr. Speaker, the committee came to this determination having considered that the rising cost of petroleum products, or indeed anything impacting businesses negatively, is deserving of an urgent response. Mr. Speaker, the object of the bill is to amend the Special Petroleum Tax Act 2014, Act 879, and to provide for a change from an ad valorem rate to a specific tax rate on selected petroleum products. Observations. Mr. Speaker, as to what the fiscal impact of the bill would be if passed into law, the committee was informed that it would result in an expected revenue loss to government of 47.9 million Ghana cedis per annum, all things being equal. So, Speaker, the committee also noted that the bill is in tandem with government's aim of shifting the focus of tax policy from the introduction of new taxes to improving tax compliance as a basis for revenue generation. It is also part of moves to shift focus from taxation to production in order to stimulate economic growth and development. 7.3. Mr. Speaker, the committee wanted to know why the bill was not presented at the time of the consideration of the budget. To this, the Deputy Minister for Finance, Honorable Kweku Kwati, explained that the introduction of the bill in Parliament has become sudden due to recent changes in the international prices of crude oil, which developments were not anticipated at the time of the formulation of the 2018 budget. On the impact on ex-palm prices, Mr. Speaker, officials from the National Petroleum Authority informed the committee that effective 16 February 2018, the prices of petrol and diesel are anticipated to go down by 1.39% and 2.6% respectively under the pricing mechanism that pertains now. With the expected passage of the bill, ex-palm price of petrol will go down by 3.39%, whilst that of diesel would also go down by 4.14%. Mr. Speaker, the officials of the National Petroleum Authority emphasized that Ghana now operates a deregulated market, and therefore the price calculations done by the NPA only show indicative ceilings and not necessarily the actual prices at each pump station, since oil marketing companies are free to sell competitively below the indicative ceiling. Conclusion. Mr. Speaker, the committee has thoroughly examined the bill and finds that its passage will bring relief to consumers of petroleum products in the country. The committee also finds that the bill is of an urgent nature and should be taken through all stages of passages in one day. In view of the foregoing, the committee recommends to the House to adopt this report and pass the Special Petroleum Tax Amendment Bill 2018 into law, subject to the amendment proposed in accordance with the 1992 Constitution and the standing orders of the House. Respectfully submitted, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much, honourable members. The motion has been moved and seconded. The committee of the House is of the view that this should be dealt with as a matter of urgency and is for consideration of the House. One from each side, very brief. It is decided unanimously by our committee that is of an urgent nature. We will deal with that and then move on to the consideration stage. Other comments will be made at that stage.
Thank you.
Honourable Najila, you may contribute from that side.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I wanted to plead with you. This is a very important bill. I wanted to plead with you. The understanding we had at the background was that we will take 2-2 before even the leadership. So if you mind adding 1-1 and then council leadership, we'll be grateful so that we keep to at least the behind the scene understanding that we had. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, we have no objection. Just as he indicated, we had disagreement on the contributions to be taken.
If you have so agreed, one and then leadership. One and leadership. Please continue.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, indeed, your committee met to deliberate on it. The first thing we want to put on record is that, Mr. Speaker, it cannot be the case that in preparing the budget, the figures have changed. Because from the budget, the benchmark revenue for crude is 57.4. Today, as we speak, crude oil is about 57.8. And so nothing dramatic has happened in terms of the benchmark revenue that necessitates this. Mr. Speaker, quickly, if you look at the petroleum price buildup, petrol has a component of 53 pesos arising from this tax prior to this introduction. The cost of petrol per gallon today is 4.67 cedis per gallon. That's what we Speaker. Per liter, Mr. Speaker, 4.67 per liter. out of which 53.47 represents the special petroleum levy or tax. Mr. Speaker, having this reduction, the minister proposed that they are reducing it from 53 pesos to 46 pesos. That translates into a reduction of 7.4 pesos. 4.5 liters makes a gallon. So if you multiply that by 4.5, it means that, right, Mr. Speaker, we are seeing a reduction of 33 pesos on a gallon, on 1 gallon. Mr. Speaker, this is totally insignificant. What the chairman talked about are projections that assuming that by 16th, those variables come into effect. Mr. Speaker, they have not closed the window yet, and I raised that question at the committee. Honorable Dr. Akotose was there, and they confirmed that they have not closed the window. And if they were to close the window and the trend continues to go down, then we would see a further reduction. But as it stands, at 4.67, if you apply the reduction by the 7 pesos, a gallon means that you are having a peanut reduction of 33 pesos. Right, Honorable Speaker, it's important to look at this figure. In the minister's own report, from the ESNA report, Ghana's consumption in 2017 was 3 million tons. If you multiply that by 415, which represents 1 metric ton, is equal to 415 liters. It means that from what we are getting, we are expecting 2,664,300,000 Ghana cedis from this levy alone. So if you would say that we are losing 47 million, right, Honorable Speaker, that translates to 1.7% cedis. 1.7%. That is a reduction. Mr. Speaker, it is my contention that whilst it is good to give a reduction, this reduction is significantly, it just doesn't give anything, Mr. Speaker. It has no effect on the consumer. Fuel price before we left office was 3.6 cedis per liter. Today it is 4.6 cedis per liter, an increment of 1 cedi per liter. So it means that every gallon you buy today, you are paying extra 4 cedis per gallon, and you are reducing it by 33 pesos. Yes, because I would propose that even as we agree to this, the Honorable Minister should just fulfill the promise of scrapping what they described as obnoxious and take away the entire levy so that the consumer can benefit from this. Other than that, Mr. Speaker, this one, Mr. Speaker, with the greatest of respect to the Minister, it is totally insignificant and it will achieve virtually nothing. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute to the motion that is currently on the floor. Mr. Speaker, I just want to say that the cry of our people today, and just last week in Bantima constituency, I received a number of calls from my constituents saying that if the president can't do anything about this price, the price of fuel, he should at least keep it where it is. For anybody, Mr. Speaker, to suggest that a reduction in the price of fuel is insignificant and therefore not enough, it's not fair to the president or even to this house, because we are talking about a reduction of 47.9 million Ghana cedis. So much money. Mr. Speaker, as people, Ghanaians, we all have expectations. The president has the mandate of the people to develop this country. For that reason, the government needs to raise money to pay for everything the government needs to provide. And as we all know, tax remains one of the major sources for raising money to embark on all the projects that the government has to do. Yes, we all agree, tax or taxation in itself is a necessary evil. Nobody likes it. No businesses, no individuals. But we need these funds to develop the country, especially when we raise tax money and use the funds prudently. Not funds that are going to be used for projects that are inflated. I believe that the president, when he is able to raise funds from taxation, is going to use it to the benefit of all. Mr. Speaker, let me say this. This is ad valorem tax, which has been changed to specific tax. The difference is clear. Ad valorem tax is a tax that is taxed in relationship to the value. In other words, the change from ad valorem tax to specific tax is taking us to a situation where a change in price of fuel will not lead to a change in price of, or an increase in price of fuel will not lead to an increase in price of taxes, so to say. The tax is going to be fixed, specific. That is the change we all need to take note of. Our friends in NDC will talk and say all sorts of things, but they should look at the last 8 years. What were we seeing? We were seeing a seesaw relationship between the price of global crude oil and what was happening locally. When the price of crude oil was going down in the global market, what were we seeing? Prices locally were going up. This is not what is happening under our watch. So, Speaker, I want to say that the president is a listening government. He is listening to the call of Ghanaians. He's reacting to the call of Ghanaians. As insignificant as some people may consider it to be, I believe that this president is different. We do not have a dead good president. The president that listens. So, Speaker, I would like to end by saying that if we are going to build a country beyond aid, then we must learn to fish for ourselves, not for anybody to fish for us. If you want roads to be built, our hospital issues to be fixed, our schools to be fixed, we must be ready to pay for these things. I would rather pay 20 Ghana cedis to get home early than to stay in traffic for 2 hours. I believe that this measure will be appreciated by Ghanaians, well-meaning Ghanaians, I should say, and that what we are doing today, it is in response to what the people actually brought us here to do. We will continue to listen to the voices of the people, and to the extent that we find it appropriate, take necessary measures to take care of our people. Thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Speaker.
Leadership. You may concede to whoever.
Mr. Speaker, I thought you agreed that
I did make myself clear. One for member, one for leadership. Leadership may concede.
But I will say you, but allow him to talk. So you not speak. No, let me speak. Let me speak. Not speak. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, okay. Let me say it's really a very sad day for this country. That those who want this tax
We are moving on steadily, 5 minutes each.
vehemently oppose it and said that it was a nuisance tax, and when they get the opportunity to come to power, they will scrap it. Today, even when the prices of petroleum have gone up, they are pretending not to see the windfall that they are getting, but are just coming to reduce it by 33%. Mr. Speaker, let me refer to the MPP manifesto, page 12, where they said teachers are suffering teacher trainees are suffering. Almost everybody here, they said, was suffering, including men and women, children and Ghanaians are suffering. So, Speaker, my understanding was that everything that they will be doing in government, this will be their benchmark. How do they reduce the suffering of the people? Mr. Speaker, if you look at the current price build-up, almost 50% are taxes. So when you look at the 4.67, almost half of it are taxes. Mr. Speaker, when even this year's budget was going to be read, the benchmark price that the ministry was anticipating for this year was $57 per barrel. Mr. Speaker, we've not even gone far. It is crossed 60. A listening government who fought and deceived the people by saying that they were suffering, they were going to cheat their suffering, will be mindful that once you are getting even above what you yourself are projected, you would rather be turning down the relief to the ordinary people so that they will be pushing. Mr. Speaker, ask if these 33 pesos will lead to
Honorable Majority, Deputy Majority.
Mr. Speaker, I rise under Order 93-2. Mr. Speaker, Order 93-2, with your permission, I read. It shall be out of order to use offensive, abusive, and the emphasis is mine here, insulting, blasphemous, and unbecoming words. Mr. Speaker, we should, as members of Parliament,
and leadership,
and in this case, leadership, know the kind of language to use. The Honorable Chief Whip, when he was making his presentation, used the word deceive. Mr. Speaker, he is using improper motive. I believe that the Honorable Minority Chief Whip will do the honorable thing, withdraw that word deceive, and rephrase in a more decorous way. He can make his point without breaching the rules of this House. Mr. Speaker, we can choose to use such language on radio, on television, but this is a house that is honorable, and that is why we have rules that govern our language, and that word is unparliamentary, and he should withdraw as such. I thank you.
Honorable members, deceit necessarily imputes bad motive. It is a language that is prohibited. Let Hansard cover it for posterity. It is language to deceive someone is necessarily ill-motivated. That is what the English language implies. Honorable, you may withdraw that and proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'll be happy to be guided.
Honorable member,
when someone says,
Honorable Chief Whip, I have made a ruling. Please withdraw and continue.
Mr. Speaker, I'm not disputing.
Then please
All
continue.
I'm saying is that if someone says, when I come, I'll scrap, and the person comes to reduce, what word should I use to describe what the person? But if the speaker says, you see, in this chamber should not be used anymore, I take his words, and the speaker, I withdraw. But the good people of Ghana, the drivers and others, they know what has been done to them.
Honorable, one thing that I will insist in this chair is the proper way of conducting Parliament as established. Please, if you withdraw simply and continue.
Mr. Speaker, Thank you very much. I said I've withdrawn.
Withdraw and continue.
Mr. Speaker, I have withdrawn. But it is good to continue that this house, the use of word deceit is
honorable. You will not interpret my words.
No, you say I should withdraw. I said I've withdrawn. But I'm reminding the house that henceforth the use of word deceit is insulting. As you, but withdrawn, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable, when you withdraw, what is done in Parliament is you don't need to apologize, but you will continue with your argument. You will not run a commentary on what the Speaker has ruled upon.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I withdraw. Mr. Speaker, the drivers who have been buying fuel, the truck bodies who now the fare have gone up as a result of this promise and faith. This high taxes. I think that they now know the character and behavior of those who told them that when they get power, they will stop this tax. Mr. Speaker, like I was saying, it is interesting to note that this reduction will lead to only 33 pesos reduction per litre. Because, Mr. Speaker, the committee report itself said that it is going to go down by 1.39 and 2.66 respectively under the pricing mechanism that pertains now. Do the calculation and see. But how much does it go? That's what I'm saying. It is 33%. It is in the report. Mr. Speaker, why was this tax imposed? Let's go in 2015. When this House passed a budget with a petroleum expected price per barrel to be $60, Mr. Speaker, the oil price on the international market collapsed, and the price came down to $30 per barrel. This House, the then government, because of the huge fall in expected revenue, government decided to introduce this tax. And in this chamber, our colleagues, even when they knew the price has collapsed and there's a huge shortfall, said that this was an insensitive government. And that when they get the opportunity, this will be scrapped. Mr. Speaker, today, the international price of oil, as I said earlier, has gone past what even this House approved in the budget of estimated $57. So if you are really mindful of the suffering of the ordinary Ghanaian, won't you pass it on so that they will have a relief? You come with this reduction that in account will say, this one, as if they are just using a stone to hit the tail of an elephant. Because the elephant is not going to feel it. And Mr. Speaker, I bet you will hear the ordinary Ghanaian what they will be saying. Because this reduction is not going to impact in any way on the lives of the ordinary citizens. Mr. Speaker, we must know that in politics, we say and do the things that when we are in a position, when we say we will do something, let's keep to our word. It is the only way that we can keep the trust of the ordinary people. We don't do things that lead to mistrust, because we did promise them that we are going to do away with this time. Now we don't know that there is an economy to protect. Thank you very much, Mr.
Majority leadership.
Mr. Speaker, I yield to the Deputy Minister for Finance.
Honorable Deputy Minister for Finance.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I would like to preface my contribution by giving a brief background to this special petroleum tax. It was in the 2015 budget statement that the NDC government, led by President John Mahama, introduced this tax, which tax took effect at the beginning of 2015. The tax rate
was 17.5% of the face value of fuel. Wow. It is a tax that never existed, and the argument that was made for that tax at the time was that every consumption, except those specifically exempted, every consumption was subject to some kind of value addition taxation. And therefore, we would have to have one on petroleum. So 17.5% was slapped on fuel, in spite of cries from the consuming public. In 2017, the NPP government, led by Ronaldo Danko Akufo-Addo, reduced this 17.5% to 15%. Mr. Speaker, that reduction was consistent with government's strategy to reduce the cost of doing business and also to reduce the cost of living for consumers. It is extremely strange when the same people who supported and begged this now turn around to say scrap it. Mr. Speaker, we must do honest and fair politics. But Mr. Speaker, the 17.5 was not just harmful because it imposed a tax burden on business and consumers. It was harmful in the sense that any time crude oil prices went up, because it's a percentage, it also went up. So whilst consumers were suffering under high prices of fuel resulting from crude oil price increases, government took advantage of that unfortunate situation to take more taxes from consumers. Mr. Speaker, what we are seeking to do by this tax measure is to stop that. We are in government. We could be getting more taxation in that event, but we are saying that the people of this country are those who build the economy. We want them to have the relief. It is one of the intentions under this intervention. And so we are changing the tax from percentage. It's no more a percentage of the face value. We are making it what a technical people call a specific tax. That is to say, there will be a fixed amount whether or not fuel prices go up. We have no interest, as happened in the previous administration, of taking advantage of price hikes to impose more taxes on Ghanaians. But Mr. Speaker, even that, we have still considered some reduction.
Honorable Bua.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
On the point of order.
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Please proceed.
This is the House of Records. The Deputy Minister of Finance just threw up information that is completely incorrect. He just stated that it was the previous administration that has been implementing the ad valorem tax. That's what he just said. This government has been doing that for over a year. So you should collect the record.
Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I wish that my colleague had got up to say we never introduced any ad valorem tax. He says, oh, we did it. That's what he just said, that we did it. Except that when you came, it is taking you time to remove it. If you know, we are removing the ad valorem element of this tax. The NPP administration has no intention whatsoever to benefit from high crude oil prices, inflicting more taxation on consumers. But Mr. Speaker, as I indicated, in spite of the strategy in this tax measure to change it from ad valorem to specific tax, we have also programmed a reduction in this. So that if ad valorem rates had existed to the end of the year, the government would have been making a margin of 47.9 million, which we are no more going to make because of this intervention. My colleagues explained that that is small. Mr. Speaker, it is tantamount to a man who is unable to make a woman pregnant. The woman leaves him for another man, and when they have a child, they sit somewhere and say, look at the child. The legs are even not nice. Mr. Speaker, the reduction we have programmed into this intervention is 70 pesos, and I refer my colleagues to page 4 of the committee's report. And I read, Mr. Speaker, with your permission, in your estimation, upon the passage of the bill into law, petrol price would reduce from the present 4.67 per litre to 4.51 per litre. Do the subtraction and multiply by 4.5. You can do this. You can do this and you say it's 33. It is not 33, it is 70. Mr. Speaker, what this means is this. For a taxi driver that consumes about 300 gallons a month, that driver will be getting a relief of about 210 Ghana cedis. And this simple intervention my colleagues cannot support. You cannot identify with the burden of the cost of doing business for taxi drivers and support this beautiful intervention. But Mr. Speaker, we have also been advised that we should scrap the tax. If the tax is bad and needs to be scrapped, then why did you bring it? Why did you bring it? Mr. Speaker, when the tax was introduced... Honorable order, yes. Honorable Former Minister. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. The Deputy Minister is grossly misleading this House. Mr. Speaker, this is a House of record. I hold in my hand the indicative petroleum product price builder, effective 1st to 15th February. Mr. Speaker, in that is the ceiling. Those who do not know should know. That's the ceiling. Special petroleum tax. Right, Honorable Speaker, on super is diesel. If you buy 1 liter, the special petroleum tax is 53.47 pesos. On diesel is 54.67 pesos. What this government is seeking to do is to reduce the 53 to 46. Because the difference is 7 pesos. When you multiply the 7 pesos by 4.5, honorable members, order. When you multiply the 7 pesos by 4.5, it takes you to 33 pesos. What they are doing is giving us gymnastics of if this happens, that happens, if that. What if it doesn't happen? As it stands now, Mr. Speaker, it is 33 pesos and not the 70 pesos. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
The honourable member on his feet while the objection is being raised is a person who responds thereafter. If you have some good apport, give to him. Honourable, you are on your feet.
Mr. Speaker, it is strange, is it not, that the National Petroleum Authority, the institution set up under the National Petroleum Authority Act, appeared before the committee and have told us what fuel prices will be as a result of this intervention. It has been captured in the committee's report, and instead of relating directly to the prices as were given us by the National Petroleum Authority, what my colleague, Honorable Jinapo, tried to do was to rather go to the taxes and do his own computation of the taxes and assume that that would be the impact on the prices. Mr. Speaker, what I am saying to this House, respectfully, is that on page 4 of the committee's report, the MEA, the authority mandated to give us indicative prices, price ceilings, says, and I quote again, Mr. Speaker, with respect, in their estimation upon the passage of the bill into law, petroleum price would reduce from the present 4.67 Ghana cedis per litre to 4.51 Ghana cedis per litre. This translates, Mr. Speaker, into about 70 pesos per gallon on the average. I have already made a point that for a taxi driver that consumes 300 gallons a month, it brings a relief of 210, and we should be happy for the taxi drivers. But Mr. Speaker, I'm bringing my response to my contribution to a close. The point has been made that we should scrap it, and we should scrap it because we should scrap it because when it was being brought, it was criticized. Of course, Mr. Speaker, we criticized it. What did we criticize? We criticized the fact that you must not bring a tax that imposes small burden on consumers at the time crude oil prices were rising. The Hansard is there, we can make a reference. That is why we are here today to say, Mr. Speaker, we no more want this as an MPP administration. We want to make it fixed so that even when crude oil prices go up and consumers have to pay more, at least they will not be coming from government. On this note, I invite my colleagues to support this for the sake of the taxi driver. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. At the conclusion of the debate, all those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. The ayes have it. The Special Petroleum Tax Amendment Bill 2018 is accordingly read a second time. Item listed 11. Minister.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise with your permission to move that the motion listed as item number 11 on page 4 of the order paper be taken today. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. Seconded.
Mr. Speaker, I second the motion.
Procedural motion. I put a question. All those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. The motion is carried. Item 12. Special Petroleum Tax Amendment Bill 2018 at the consideration stage. Clause 1.
Section 2 of Act 879 amended.
Clause 1, substantial part of the bill. All those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. Clause 1 stands part of the bill. Clause 2. The schedule.
Schedule to Act 879 amended.
Honourable members, the question is that the schedule stands part of the bill. All those in favour say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. The schedule stands part of the bill. Long title.
An act to amend the Special Petroleum Tax Act 2014, Act 879, to reduce the special petroleum tax from 15% to 13% and to provide for a change from ad valorem rate on the ex-depot price of petroleum products listed in the schedule to a specific rate of tax per litre or kilogram corresponding to each of the petroleum products listed in that schedule and to provide for related matters.
Honorable members, the long title is for constitution of the House. Honorable Chairman.
Mr. Speaker, there's no advertised amendment, but I seek your leave to amend to move an amendment to the long title.
Please give us that.
Mr. Speaker, long title, amendment proposed. Lines 1 and 2. Delete to reduce the special petroleum tax from 15% to 13% and so that now the long title would read, an act to amend the Special Petroleum Tax Act 2014 Act 879 to provide for a change from ad valorem rates on the ex-depot price of petroleum products listed in the schedule to a specific rate of tax per liter of kilogram corresponding to each of the petroleum products listed in that schedule and to provide for related matters. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Honorable members, the proposed amendment is for constitution of the House. Honorable Boa.
Yes. Mr. Speaker, I'm proposing an amendment. I'm proposing that the proposal where it's requesting an ad valorem that the whole special petroleum tax be scrapped. The special petroleum tax total amount must be completely taken out. That's what I'm proposing.
Chairman. Mr. Speaker, if the honorable member for Lembele will pay attention, what we are doing now is considering the long title. The body of the bill, we have considered the tax so imposed. Yes, we've done that already. So now we have the long title. So are you suggesting that the bill will not contain the long title? So that amendment should have come in the body of the bill. We've long passed there. If you want to do that, you have to come to a second consideration stage. You can't do this amendment in the long title. Learn the rules, please.
Honorable. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm happy the honorable member is stating what he just stated. But the reality is that no member in this house has the bill. Most members. You just got it. Most members. You just saw it. Let us drop this.
And it has just been dropped. Honorable members, if you give me the opportunity, I resolve this. Honorable Majority Leader.
We just got it.
Honorable Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker. We are considering a bill. We've gone past the consideration of the body. Our long title is being considered. And somebody jumps in at the wrong time to say that he didn't have a copy. In the meantime, the person who said that nobody has a copy shows a copy to the House. Mr. Speaker, what kind of attitude is this? The rules of this House will not permit you at this time to jump to do what you intend to do. The Speaker is completely barred from doing what exercise he wants to engage in. And the Speaker is just a tedious argument that he wants to put up. Can we move on?
Honorable members, I am advised that the distribution was done yesterday. That is by the table office. And in your case, those you have copies to be able to contribute at the consideration stage where we are discussing the essence, the principles, and all other important issues underpinning the bill. Honorable members, an amendment has been made at this stage. I will put a question. All those in favor of the amendment say aye. Aye. Those against say no. Honorable Minority Leader.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, unfortunately, looking at those of us in the chamber, Mr. Speaker, I'm sorry to say we do not have the required number to take decisions. Mr. Speaker, I refer you to Article 102 of the 1992 Constitution. That says that...
Honorable Member, in fact, I'm very flexible at consideration stage, as you know. So we can always look at some of these things at consideration. Nevertheless, where a reason is being given as to tardiness of report being received, then I have to consult the table office. And I'm told this was distributed yesterday. Now, Honorable, if what you're saying is something technical, then please bring the rules and just tell me that. Proceed, please.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. Mr. Speaker, I'm first referring you to Order 102, the Constitution. The Constitution. Article 102 of the Constitution.
Article 103.
102.
Article 102 of the Ghana Constitution.
He's waiting for you. Mr. Speaker, I'm making reference to Article 102 of the Constitution that talks about a quorum of Parliament, apart from the person presiding, shall be 1/3 of all members of Parliament. Mr. Speaker, unfortunately, those of us sitting in the chamber do not have, we don't have the number to take the decision that we are taking, and I'll be grateful to draw your attention to that. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, with respect, you have gotten to a stage where you have put the question. You have put the question, and the question has been responded to. The Speaker, it's for you to make a determination
on this matter.
On this matter. The Speaker, before you can hear, because now it's suspended, you must make a pronouncement on the verdict. And Mr. Speaker, that is the how. Mr. Speaker, that is the how. So if you can put the question. Mr. Speaker, so I think you must conclude this business, and if the member wants to continue with whatever, he can do it. Mr. Speaker, you have the question, and the verdict must be announced. That's where we are.
Electoral Commission.
This question has been put. Those who said I have said it. It cannot be constricted at this particular juncture. All those in favor have indicated yes. And it's a decision. Whilst the decision is being pronounced on, it's not the time to start raising other matters. After that, we will consider other matters. Honorable Minority Leader. Honorable Minority Chief Whip.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, that's exactly, because the voice had gone, was to draw your attention that the voice, whether yea or no, is not up to the number to take a decision. That's what I'm drawing attention. And Mr. Speaker, having quoted the Constitution, now the Standing Order 109 says, no question for decision in the House shall be proposed for determination unless there are present in the House not less than 1/2 of all members of the House. Mr. Speaker, those of us sitting in the chamber, we are less than even 100. So I'm just drawing your attention that yes, that vote, you call for the vote, but those of us in the chamber, we do not have the number to be able to take such decisions. That's what the attention I'm drawing, so that you make a determination. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, the rule that we quoted, it says no question shall be proposed unless we have that number that he referred to. Mr. Speaker, if the member knows that we didn't have the number, he should have preceded the question, the putting of the question. Mr. Speaker, you have put the question and he himself participated in that question, and now he tells you. Mr. Speaker, you cannot ambush us. Mr. Speaker, you cannot ambush us. And we must pronounce the verdict and move on. Mr. Speaker, he was taught and he knows the rules. At what point, whatever must be. Now he's back from raising that issue. Mr. Speaker, can we go on?
Can a person participate in an activity and when he does not have his way, ex post facto complain? Honorable, I'm listening to you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, with the greatest respect, before you put the question, I was upstanding, but I wouldn't catch your eye. But I was standing, and I never participated. Mr. Speaker, if you remember, a number of us were standing when you were struggling to put the question. When my other colleague, Honorable Bua, when you called him, then he talked about wanting to make an amendment. But myself, Honorable Kwame Brother, and others were standing. Even Honorable Taylor, we were all standing. But I couldn't catch your eye. So if it is people there that you participate because you didn't get what you want, now you are coming out. So far from that, I was upstanding. I was upstanding, and if majority just says that I participated, I did not. I was upstanding. I did not vote either for yeah or no, but I was trying to draw the attention of the House that the number that we have in the chamber is not up to the number to take a decision. But I wouldn't catch the Speaker's eye. So how do you say that after I did not get what I want, that's when I was doing this? No, I was outstanding.
Mr. Speaker,
the Honorable Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, respectfully, yes. Mr. Speaker, if you are present in the chamber when a question is put, you may opt to say aye. You may opt to say no. You may opt to even keep quiet. Even if you keep quiet, you have participated. Because people should understand what is meant by participation. You think that if you say aye or you say no, that is only when you participate in the debate, in the putting of a question. Mr. Speaker, if you decide to keep mute, it is participation. Abstention is participation in the vote. People should understand that. Because we are waiting the verdict and we are moving.
The fundamental rule of law is that no person is allowed to approbate and reprobate at the same time. This brings to an end the consideration stage. Honorable members, item 13.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to move that the motion listed as item 13 on page 5 of the other paper be moved today. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Seconded.
Mr. Speaker, I second the motion.
This is a procedural motion. All those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. The motion is carried.
An act to amend the Special Petroleum
Item number 14. Minister of Finance.
Thank you again, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to move that the Special Petroleum Tax Amendment Bill 2018 be now read the third time. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Seconded.
Mr. Speaker, I second the motion.
The motion has been moved and seconded and is for consideration of honorable members. Whatever relates to this motion at this stage will be within the context. We finish all aspects of it now. It's being read the third time. Is there? I do not see any good reason why we cannot proceed to read it a third time. It will be determined by members in terms of whether they intend or vote for the reading of the bill for the third time. That's the only stage we have reached now. So all those in favor honorable members, let us not appear sometimes that we are working towards any stampeding, because it's something that we want to avoid. All those, therefore, yes, honorable majority. Leader of the House.
He wants to make an application.
Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the motion, the procedural motion, which would allow for the reading of a bill the third time, will be moved. Now, the motion that the Special Petroleum Tax Amendment Bill 2018 be now read the third time has also been moved. The Speaker, at that time, after it has been moved, is for a question to be put. The Speaker, if the rules are very clear in that, Article Order 131 provides that. At that point, it's for the question to be put. The Speaker, so I invite you to put the question. I invite you to put the question.
Order. And that is why I respectfully said the issue remaining before us is to put and determine the question. Honorable Minority Leader, do you, no, I'm conscripting what I'm saying, because we are not going to just open Pandora boxes. Let me be very clear. Do you rise with regard to the question that has been moved and seconded being put to this honorable House? There is a motion moved and seconded. So please speak to, address me on the parameters of this limitation.
Mr. Speaker, I'm sad the way you have treated me as minority leader. I stood up before the majority leader. You owe me that courtesy and that respect. You owe me that courtesy and that respect. Mr. Speaker, you cannot, even after hearing him, you were still not decided whether to hear me or not. All I'm voted to do here is to speak, and as minority leader, to speak to the rules. May I respectively, I'm not here to talk about quorum. May I draw your attention to Order 130, and why I was on my feet, and I'm within the rules, and within the standing orders, and you must respect the standing orders. As chair of this House, I just didn't stand up because of quorum. No, I stood up because the rules provide, and I'm quoting for your emphasis, Order 130 reads, if any member, Order 130, 130, if any member desires to delete or amend a provision contained in a bill, the bill for this purpose, the Special Petroleum Tax Amendment Bill 2018, which has passed through the consideration stage, or to introduce any new provision to it, he may at any time before a member rises to move the third reading of the bill, move that bill do pass through a second consideration. Therefore, you owe me every duty and every standard of care to hear me on this matter. I rose on this. I'm within the rules. Mr. Speaker, you see, you are chair of this House. You must hold us together. We almost didn't even want to continue. Nobody has an objection to the review, to what we are doing. A revision of the petroleum tax. I did a press conference. We spoke on it. It's a good thing to do. So if I was, Mr. Speaker, you owe me. I don't want to ever disrespect you. But if you invite me, I will. If you invite me, I will. Yes, I will. No. I'm the minority leader. I can't have space to talk understanding others. No. I stood up. It is within the rules. I respect him. I said, my friend, I'm well cultured. Reverend Dr. Professor. I said, I don't ever want to disrespect him because I owe him respect. But I'm saying you must respect me as minority leader. And when I stand on the rules, he must. As reciprocal. That is what I've said. Mr. Speaker, you are reverend. You are my professor. I thought the standing, and then you called me that. I'm within the rules. I didn't raise it. Order. Mr. Speaker, this matter shouldn't generate this. I didn't rise on code. I was just rising to see if I could seek an amendment to the schedule. And I was going to study the Constitution, schedule to the Act, so that I ask for a certain consideration, which is within the rules. And I want to satisfy myself. No, when the motion for 13 and 14 were moved, I was here. I was not here when the issue of quorum was being discussed. And Mr. Speaker, out of the same difference and respect, that's why I didn't speak, because I needed to appreciate where we are. But I only rose to state that within the standing orders, before he moves for third reading, I have every right within the standing orders to arrest the motion and ask for second consideration. You heard me right. I said I will not ever.
Honorable Minority Leader, you are finished. Honorable Majority Leader. Order. Honorable members, the Speaker who will Honorable Majority Leader.
Speaker, thank you. The Speaker, I believe, first of all, we must make the distinction. When you recognize me initially, you recognize me as the leader of the House, not as the majority leader.
Yeah.
Speaker, there's a word of distinction.
Yes,
there's a word of distinction. Because Speaker, you recognize the leader of the House before the minority leader.
Yes,
Well, that is most appropriate. That is most appropriate. But Mr. Speaker, I believe that the minority leader must be given his due. The Speaker, except in this case, in this particular case, when he got up, the Speaker, the motion listed as item number 14 had already been called.
Yes.
The Speaker, that motion had already been called. Mr. Speaker, the minority leader read to us. And with the indulgence of the House, I want to repeat after him. If any member desires to delete or amend a provision contained in a bill which has passed through the consideration stage, or to introduce any new provision to it, he may, at any time before a member rises to move the third reading of the bill, at any time before.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, so a person doesn't even need to wait until we get to the third reading. Mr. Speaker, until we get to the third reading. Now, the third reading has been called, it's been moved and seconded. So, Mr. Speaker, at that point, the minority leader or whoever, even the majority leader, cannot get up to inject himself. That's the difference. That indeed is the difference. And I believe this should not engender any rage. It shouldn't engender any rage at all. Mr. Speaker, I raised this issue some time back when I was in the minority. Indeed, at the time of Justice Bamford Addo, this particular order, and I said to us that you don't even have to wait until the bill the third reading is advertised. Once we finish the consideration stage, you can apply Order 130. Mr. Speaker, so if you wait for the motion for the third reading to be read and is seconded, the Speaker, at that point, if you rise up, the minority that will agree with me that at that point, if you want to proffer any amendment, you are statute barred. You cannot come under any rule of this House. You cannot. The door is foreclosed. As simple as that. The Speaker, if the minority leader's argument is that I rose up and Speaker, you didn't recognize me, that is a different matter. That's a different matter. But once the motion has been moved and it's been seconded, the door is shut at anybody in this House. That is the rule. That is the order. Yes, you guys, thank you.
You may continue. Mr. Speaker, this House is governed by rules and is a standing orders. Mr. Speaker, it's not for anybody to read my mind or read why I'm standing. Indeed, Mr. Speaker, maybe we should ask for a video play of the drama which has happened. If you notice, you refuse to recognize the majority whip. Maybe, probably, yes, maybe, okay, you didn't recognize the majority whip. The minority whip. He was there. So, Mr. Speaker, if you go into the video, I had to persuade him to sit down because I was not coming on the matter of quorum. You can watch it. So I said, no, sit. So when you move, when you ask, after motion 30, when you move to motion 14, then I stood up. Mr. Speaker, the word before, it is for your interpretation, not change. Before a member moves a motion, not change answer those who. The word before is to be interpreted by you. Before the person moves a motion for third reading. So, Mr. Speaker, it is because at that point, I don't know what crossing your mind about the minority that you didn't want to hear it. That can only be the reason. But the Honorable Muntaka was on his feet. And I persuaded him that no quorum, let me raise a different matter. I want to do certain consideration. At that time, Mr. Speaker, you have developed some You didn't recognize a minority very much. Thank you very much. In view of the business before us and the time, I read that sitting goes beyond the regular hours. Now, without any doubt whatsoever, sequence is of great importance in all rules and in all procedures. The motion had clearly been moved. The third reading had clearly been called. The second reading had been done. And no interruption must be allowed thereafter to interject business beyond control. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. The motion is carried.
An act to amend the Special Petroleum Tax Act 2014, Act 879.
The Special Petroleum Tax Amendment Bill
change from an petroleum rate
18
tax depot price of petroleum products listed in the schedule to a specific rate.
Having read that and passed the third time, we continue with the debate. we continue the debate. Yes, we continue with the debate.
Mr. Speaker, by way of bringing finality to it, we said this act has been read a third time.
And passed.
Yes, conclusively, and passed.
And passed.
Thank you very much.
Yes, and I didn't say so. Sometimes so much noise doesn't make us hear the relevant things. Now, the list given me Honorable Member for Egusi, your turn to contribute. Honorable Member for Egusi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity to contribute to the motion. Mr. Speaker, development of the nation's roads have been slow due to inadequate funding and also mismanagement of the scarce resources allotted to road works in terms of awarding too many projects far in excess of budgetary allocation, just as what had been witnessed in 2016 under Enhanced Road Fund and what is also happening under Cocoa Board funded projects. The Speaker, this results in delay in payment to contractors, consequent time overrun, because there will be need for extension of completion period, and the rest of it, Mr. Speaker, the employer, in defaulting payment within the stipulated time in the contract, will also have to pay for interest on delay payment. Mr. Speaker, to date, only about 23% of the network size of about 72,381 kilometers have been paid or tagged. Mr. Speaker, maintenance of our roads has also been erratic. Interventions have been untimely. Maintenance activities have been slowed down, carried out slowly, which has resulted in rapid deterioration of our roads. Every year, about 70% of our network is planned for maintenance. But Mr. Speaker, it's only about 50% of the planned work that is achieved. 50% of 70% is 35%. And Mr. Speaker, it means that every year, only about 35% of our network receives maintenance. To date, there is a huge backlog of maintenance. Less than 40% of the network is in good condition, and the remaining in fair to poor. But even as at the end of 2008, about 42% of our network were in good condition. So since 2009 to date, the Speaker, our roads has been neglected for maintenance, and the result is that we have even less roads network in good condition as compared to that of 2008. In view of this, the Speaker, the government of Nana Adebanko Akufo-Addo is embarking on a number of road projects to aggressively reduce the huge backlog of road maintenance on our network. We are also making strides to develop the network by upgrading and rehabilitating the road surface, gravel road surface to bituminous surface. Congestion is also predominant on some sections of our roads. Efforts are being made to widen them to accommodate the increasing vehicular traffic, and also taking giant steps to construct new bridges to replace existing ones that are weak and have outlived its design life. The Speaker, our paved roads are infested with potholes and depressions nationwide, and as a result, 349 contracts covering 13,321 kilometers have been awarded to patch potholes and do sessional repair works.
The first Speaker will take the chair. Please go on.
Preserve the road infrastructure. Mr. Speaker, on our trunk roads, there are 204.
member continue.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, on our trunk roads, 241 contracts covering 6,630 kilometers will have routine maintenance. Our feeder roads, 9 contracts covering about 100 kilometers. And on our urban roads, 99 contracts covering 6,608 kilometers. In addition, there are also 49 contracts that have been awarded to reseal about 683 kilometers of existing paved roads in the urban centers. And also, there's a 6 contracts covering about 75 kilometers in the urban roads, which will have asphalt overlay. Mr. Speaker, on our gravel roads, maintenance is also required, and intensive grading works to make the surface smooth travel and comfort is also being embarked on. We cleaned our sub-buildings to improve the drainage systems so that the roads will be safe from water. A total of 685 contracts, Mr. Speaker, covering 19,057 kilometers of gravel roads are also being awarded. 222 contracts covering 4,473 kilometers on our trunk routes, 388 contracts covering 30,367 kilometers on our feeder roads, and 75 contracts covering 1,217 kilometers, Mr. Speaker, in the urban roads. Rehabilitation and upgrading of gravel to bitumen surfacing are also being pursued vigorously, having in mind the challenges that is facing the road fund and the quantum of ongoing projects that the government inherited. In view of this, Mr. Speaker, 151 contracts are being awarded through those, some are in tendering stages to cover about 2,000 kilometers of roads. Trunk roads, there are 20 contracts which will cover 637 kilometers. The feeder roads, 103 contracts that will cover 1,128 kilometers. In urban roads, we have 28 contracts which will cover about 184 kilometers. Mr. Speaker, some of these roads include Atibu Beseneso, Tamale Daboya, Nabrongo, Naga, Bongatanga, Naga, Kwadaso, Trabu, Mampokufiasi, Apollonia, Afinia, Feeder Road, Ibunasi Sekwa, Efuti, Aguna, Abuim, Pebe Junction, Pebe Waterworks, Kaliu, Sankana, Taku, in the Upper West region, Sangregoa, Fogro Chrome, Sapasi, Yehu Bisasi, and Tensre, another number of town roads, Mr. Speaker. Some development projects which are usually capital intensive are also being procured with the support of development partners. The Speaker, Benchima Agufia Road, which is about 39 kilometers, is being also been awarded in the Western region for upgrading to bituminous surface, and also 6 very critical bridges in the north is also being pursued vigorously for construction. These corridors are located at Kolombugu, Garu, Dominga, Sicily, Ambarala, and Kulun. In addition to this, Mr. Speaker, 3 critical bridges also in the north are also in the procurement stage, and that is the Bupe Bridge over the Black Water, the Yape and Babia bridges on the White Water, to also replace existing bridges that are very weak. Indeed, there is no bridge at Babia, but a new one is going to be constructed. Also, Mr. Speaker, at the motorway end of the Accra-Tema motorway at Tema, the contractor is also mobilizing to sites to construct at the phase 1 an interchange which is to further reduce the congestion on the motorway. The government, the Speaker, is on its feet and on course. The President has promised the phase roads. These roads, as we inherited, were in deplorable state because of neglect maintenance. But it's good for this honorable House to note and listen attentively that the government of Adodanko Akufo-Addo is putting in place all efforts to fix these our roads. Those our roads will be developed so that the percentage of our road that is in 23% will increase. And Mr. Speaker, it's also projected that by the end of the 2020, about 60% of our roads will be in good condition. I thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity.
Honorable Edward Bauer. Honorable Dr. Kwabena.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to contribute to the State of the Nation address made by His Excellency, the President of the Republic. Mr. Speaker, in so doing, I would want to, first of all, express my appreciation to His Excellency for coming to the House to perform his constitutional responsibility. However, in reviewing the speech ably made, Mr. Speaker, His Excellency said that there was this spectacular improvement in the power supply, that is on page 14 of the State of the Nation address, and attributed this to the hard work that had gone into easing the financial structure of the energy sector. Mr. Speaker, I want to state that, yes, the current operators of the energy system have done commendable work by sticking to what they came to meet in terms of the program of work. And I'll be the first to put on record that the Ministry of Energy has done well by going ahead with the early power project, by going ahead with the Ghana Power Company project, by continuing with the ESLA revenue stream and applying the extra revenue stream to the energy sector. However, it is also important, particularly for the President of the Republic, to acknowledge that no new addition has been added to especially our generating assets. No new levies have been introduced. Indeed, what the government has done is to take the ESLA, which some of my colleagues on the opposite side opposed, and package ESLA into a new vehicle. That we applaud. At least it's a recognition of the work that had been done. But it is also unfortunate if the credit to the cessation of load shedding is appropriated to one side. It is most unfortunate. Mr. Speaker, it is important that we give commendation to where commendation is due. It is also important, Mr. Speaker, that even in our desire to bring relief to the people of this country, we stick within the confines of the law. In the 2018 budget statement, Mr. Speaker, the Minister of Finance, on behalf of His Excellency the President, stated that government was going to recommend to PUSC to reduce tariffs by a certain percentage. Mr. Speaker, it is important to note that Act 538 of 1997, especially Section 4, is very specific that the Commission shall not be subject to the direction of any person or authority in the performance of its duties. Whilst I can appreciate government's desire to see tariffs down, which we all share, it is critically important for government to do so within the remits of the law, to be seen to be obeying and respecting the laws of the land. Mr. Speaker, therefore, if I will go further to say, if the government is so determined to reduce tariffs, then it is important the government takes a second look at the tariff structure, especially in the power sector. There is the energy cost, which is the price at which power is generated. But the tariff is also made up of taxes and levies. It is within the bosom of government to reduce or review taxes and levies. We must be careful that we do not jeopardize the sustainability of the power system for short-term advantage. If government is desirous of reducing tariffs, then levies and taxes, including VAT, including ESLA, should be vehicles government should use. If we cut the need to the marrow, we may have a short-term advantage in 1 or 2 years. By year 5, 6, 7, this country will get into energy jeopardy again. And therefore, it is important that we advise government to put its money where its mouth is. The levies are there to be reduced. The government also promised in paragraph 505, page 96 of the budget, to reconfigure the operations of VALCO and to enhance and improve the efficiency of VALCO by supplying additional power at reasonable cost to VALCO. I'm very surprised by the silence in the State of the Nation address on VALCO. VALCO is so critical to the industrial development of this country. It is not just the direct production of VALCO, but the downstream effect on the aluminium, on the canning industry, and the number of jobs. Therefore, we want to see a lot more action on VALCO rather than silence. Mr. Speaker, this morning, I was quite amazed when I saw the report of the Finance Committee on Special Petroleum Tax. Mr. Speaker, I very much appreciate the need to keep to our promises. Mr. Speaker, governance, the integrity of governance is at stake in our nation state. When political parties, especially major political parties that have had the experience of being in government before, make promises to the good people of Ghana and do not keep those promises, it is not only a particular party that suffers, but the whole institution of governance, the integrity of all political parties, the integrity of institutions of states becomes undermined. I was expecting that the special petroleum tax to be scrapped, as promised, when the special petroleum tax was being introduced in 2014. What has happened? Have we now, after the event, realized that after all it was very useful and that it had a role in the financial management of this country? If we have done so, there's an adage that it's only a fool who does not change his mind. If we now realize that yes, it is important, it fixes a hole in our budgetary system, then let's at least be humble enough to admit that we erred and that it is useful. Until we do that, the integrity of politics and politicians becomes undermined. I'm also surprised that there is no mention of conservation in the State of the Nation address, the conservation of power. Mr. Speaker, Energy Commission did some study, and there is a publication from the Energy Commission on efficiency gains. Mr. Speaker, as a people, we are extremely unconservative. We are extremely wasteful in the utilization of power. There is no better example than this very house. You go to the Job 600 building, after 6 p.m., you will find air conditioning in stairways on with nobody there. Mr. Speaker, if government places emphasis on conservation, we can reduce the cost of electricity that hits our households by at least 30%. This is what the Energy Commission found out. So I was very surprised that SONA, even though speaking of the need to reduce tariffs, never mentioned conservation. Mr. Speaker, I will commend conservation to our leaders, and particularly to this House, that a lot of emphasis should be placed on conservation. Mr. Speaker, His Excellency the President, our President, mentioned the Voltairean Basin, some preliminary work done in the Voltairean Basin. Mr. Speaker, I pray caution. I pray caution. The existence of a petroleum system is not necessarily indicative of a discovery, let alone a commercial discovery. For areas that are technical, when the
Honourable Member, I have 1 more minute.
Mr. Speaker, I thought I was a ranking member, and they said ranking members are 12 minutes. But I can't challenge you.
You are entitled to 12 minutes, and check your clock. You have done 11.
Go on. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I take your direction. Mr. Speaker, we should be careful not to raise the hopes of our people. We have raised the hopes of our people in the political arena, and quite often we've dashed their hopes. In the petroleum field, we should be cautious. I thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Old Tafo, Dr. Akutose.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I thank you for giving me the permission to contribute to the State of the Nation address. Mr. Speaker, before I go into the details of what I want to say, I wish to, as a senior member of this House, advise colleagues on both sides that when you are in public office, whatever you say will come after you later. I watched members of the minority question Honorable Martin Amedu on what he has said years back. They stayed there and questioned him. Today, a former Deputy Minister of Finance is on the floor of this House stating that the deficit in 2008 was 14.5. Mr. Speaker, that is a former Deputy Minister of Finance. 10 years from now, people will question him on that. Why? Because he knows that that is not factual. It is not factual. The data has been revised and it's 6 point something. But a Deputy Minister of Finance, a former, stands on the floor of this House. Yes, it is a serious contribution, and you do well to listen, because it is economics 101. Mr. Speaker, the President came here to talk about a message on the state of the nation. He did not come here to do propaganda. He came to fulfill a constitutional obligation. So the ultimate test is for him to compare what he met and where he is now. Mr. Speaker, our colleagues on the other side have forgotten one thing. Conveniently, we had an IMF program called the Enhanced Credit Facility Program, which was supposed to run for 3 years, from April 2015 to April 2018. So, Speaker, when the President assumed power, that program was completely off course. Completely. Why do I say that? The message of of the State of the Nation is that when we inherited the government, that government was supposed to have achieved a deficit of 6.3. But guess what happened? He inherited a deficit of 9.3. That is the state of the nation, Mr. Speaker, and that is factual. Mr. Speaker, somebody stood here on the floor of the House, rightly so, and said that in economics, if you borrow and you invest, then you should see growth rise. I agree with you. I'm contributing to the state of the nation. So, Speaker, NDC inherited government with a debt GDP ratio of 36%. They left us with a debt GDP ratio of 73. Mr. Speaker, that is not bad if it was translated into gross capital formation. And from gross capital formation, you can see growth in real GDP. My friend, it's economics 101. So let's compare the GDP in 2008, 9.1%. If the debt was going to gross capital formation, we should be seeing a higher GDP ratio. What did we see? The state of the nation, GDP growth was 3.6%. That is the state of the nation. The borrowing could not have been going to gross capital formation. I don't know what it went to. Some of it I know, not all of it, but I will not say it here. Mr. Speaker, the state of the nation is that GDP growth had gone from 9.1 to 3.7%. That is the state of the nation, and that's the message the President wanted to tell us. Mr. Speaker, what he said does not mean that there are no challenges. Yes, there are challenges. In fact, as we speak, the price of cocoa has declined, as you know, from $3,000 to about $1,900. That is a challenge. That is a challenge that he must face. And that has very serious implications. In fact, the immediate consequence, as you know, is that Cocoa Board, because government decided not to reduce producer prices, is suffering a $2 billion deficit in its budget. That is the challenge that we face. But the President was not deterred. He said he's going to do whatever is possible.
Honorable Minister, please hold on. Yes, Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, ordinarily I wouldn't do this to my senior colleague, but I want the facts to be stated correctly. On page 2, the President quoted the GDP growth rate as of December to be differently from what my colleague on the other side is quoting. Did I hear you say that 3.67 from 3.7 to 7.9? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, Honorable.
I thought he was listening. He was not listening. Mr. Speaker, I said, to repeat, that if the borrowing, as asserted by your colleague, which went from 36% to 73%, goes into gross capital formation, we should see a rise in the growth of GDP. In 2009, when we assumed office, the GDP growth was 9.1. When we left office, it is 3.6. That is a fact. And it's the state of the nation. That is the state in which we left it. See, I said 3.6. You are not listening. No, 3.6. Just if he wants to, I will give him 4%. The fact is that the borrowing did not go into gross capital formation. I said, I know where he went to, but I don't want to state it here. Oh, I didn't say that. Please don't quote me on that. The Speaker, the challenge, as I said, he admitted it. I mentioned the cocoa price. The Speaker, even petroleum prices have moved up since the budget was read, from about 57 point something to a bit above 60. That brings a serious challenge to the budget. And that is why today, we have gone to reduce change from ad valorem to specific, because we know the challenges it brings. So this is a president who is saying, I met a state of the nation which was not correct. I have stabilized it. I do have challenges, but I can assure you we are on course. Inflation went from 15 point something to now, today is about 10.8. We are not finished yet. We want to move into single digits because that is what consumers want us to do. Mr. Speaker, the President is telling us that the state of the nation, the message is that due to superior economic management, we are on the right path. And you do well to listen to us. So, Speaker, in 2000 when we assumed power, you had the same problem with IMF. You had a program which was off track. Inflation was 41%. 41. We brought it down to 18%, and we did not boost. Somebody stands on the floor of the House, he meets inflation at 18%, he brings it to 15%, and he's clapping on his chest. Hey, 18 to 15. We brought it from 41 to 18. We are not even clapping our hands. But you brought it from 18 to 15, and you are saying you have done well. The state of the nation, the message is that the state of the nation is sounder than we met it. So, Mr. Speaker, because we are trying to stabilize and keep the IMF program on course, we are not able to complete the program as originally scheduled in April 2015. That is why we've extended it to the end of the year. Because you cannot create an IMF program when you're off course. We inherited a government, so we must continue with the program. And we are taking up the challenge. I can assure you, by December 2018, we would have done what is necessary to exit the program. We did so in 2001, we exited in 2004, and everything was going up. By the time we get to 2020, we'll do the same. So, Speaker, in those few words, I want to tell you that the President told us about the state of the nation. I thank you.
Honorable Adam Mutawakili. Mutawakili.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, my contribution will be limited to a few paragraphs. And the first of it is page 14, paragraph 3. And in doing so, I'll be
trying to reprogram your timing. You're still continuing with Dr. Akotoze's timing. That was difficult for me to track you.
Thank you very much. And so I'll be quoting some sentences that have been read by the President. And one of them is that he said a lot of hard work have gone to easing the intolerable debt situation that threatened to paralyze the energy industry. First and foremost, the former government, NDC government, took the bold decision to pass the Energy Sector Levy Act, which was opposed by MPP when in government. And that was the critical stage in solving the financial situation in the energy sector. All the hard work, you came, you met the ESLA, you promised to scrap it, you didn't scrap it. We promised that within 5 years we should be able to settle this debt. You came and you extended it to 15 years. We don't call that hard work. We don't call that hard work when you use it to set up a special purpose vehicle, ESLA PLC, and went to the international market with a roadshow to raise 6 billion Ghana cedis, and you ended up raising 4.7 billion Ghana cedis. That is not hard work. It is not hard work. While you are paying the legacy, then you are incurring more debt. Mr. Speaker, last year, ECG alone incurred a debt of 660 million Ghana cedis. Ghana Gas, 300 million Ghana cedis. We don't call that hard work. Mr. Speaker, he went ahead to talk of renewable energy. Mr. Speaker, there were certain programs that were introduced by the NDC government, and we thought that any government that is interested in the renewable energy should continue. A very clear example is Ghana Solar Support Project, which was geared towards addressing the electricity problem with respect to hairdressers, tailors, and barbers, where solar rooftop will be mounted on their businesses so that they do not depend on the national grid. This will first and foremost take a chunk of the bill that they pay monthly. What are we seeing today? Since the MPP government came to power, they have cancelled that project. It's no more working. We asked them to state their position on that solar project. Up to date, they haven't stated their position. The second one is net metering. Net metering is to encourage the private individuals to invest in the renewable energy, so that when they have excess power, they can transfer it to the national grid. And when they need power, then they take from the national grid, so that at the end of the day, it's net off. Mr. Speaker, as I speak today, since 2017, that program has slowed down, and as we speak, we don't have even one person providing that service to Ghana. So you can't be talking of encouraging renewables, while at the same time you are stifling the programs, the existing programs that have been started by the previous government. Mr. Speaker, in the same paragraph, you talk about do so. We are all aware that since 2016, the power situation in this country had been stabilized. But of late, since January, I am sure Mr. President is not paying attention to the cry of the northern sector. Since January, we've had persistent do so in the northern sector. Since January, I was in Tamale 2 days ago. We had three hours lights off. In some places, 12 hours. Mr. President, your statement that you have sold in Jumso should be re-looked at. You are not achieving the desired results. Mr. Speaker, the President on page 18 spoke about some petroleum systems in the Voltane Basin, and that he directed the GMPC to take up certain activities in the Voltane Basin. I want to put it on record that it started since 2013. The work started 2013. But what I find worrying, when he made that they have found petroleum systems, I know that certain work have been done, some wells have been drilled, but this data need to be processed and analyzed. Mr. Speaker, you referred GMPC work program to us just a few weeks ago, and there is a caption on Voltane Basin. And I want to talk about the data, whether GMPC have started analyzing the data or not. It is stated there, and with your permission, I read. The project will ensure the data acquisition and processing phase following the signing of the seismic data acquisition and processing contract. As we speak now, GMPC hasn't signed any contract for the acquisition and processing of data. So I find it terribly wondering how and where the President got the information that there is petroleum system in the Voltane Basin. And when the President speaks, it must be proven. He should have been talking of proving, and putting down that mere statement. I think that we need to take caution in respect to that. Mr. Speaker, Galamsey is an issue. Galamsey, the fight against Galamsey is an issue. And it is very important to know that there are structures in place to ensure that there is presence of staff at every corner of this country, and more especially in the district. And that is why you refer this, the Mineral and Mining Act in 2015 to us to work on the amendment portion. and the amendment recommended the setting up of the district mining committees. However, Mr. Speaker, the Mineral Commission is the regulator, and if it is well-resourced and will have representation at every district where gold is mined, it will go a long way to curbing galamsey. But it's shocking that this time round, the Mineral Commission IGF had been cut and making them handicapped to be able to implement. You can set up a task force, but there is a limit to it. It will work for a period and they have to come back. It is the Mineral Commission that will have permanent presence in this district.
You know, I'm very particular about galamsey. It started with this Minerals Commission people. They did escalate or they did go down. Do you trust them? Me, I don't trust them one bit. They facilitate the thing.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. But it's high time we stop undermining our institutions. If it is not working, what have we done to make sure it works and make sure that institution works? And that is why I'm indicating, Mr. Speaker, this exercise cannot continue forever. At a certain point, when we bring these military men back, who will take up the responsibility? Mineral Commission will take up. And if it is well resourced and restructured well to function, then we destroy that institution and it becomes a challenge for us. Mr. Speaker, 9 months of fighting galamsey. But as we speak today, we cannot mention of one galamsey site that had been closed. The minister was here to answer questions, and he couldn't give us even one galamsey site that has been closed. That is a sign of worry. Recently, in the news, Ghana Water Company said the water bodies are still polluted. That is an indication that galamsey is still ongoing. Mr. Speaker, the President also spoke about getting private investors to participate in the thermal component of the VRM. Mr. Speaker, in 2015, former President Mama, in his State of the Nation's address, made it clear having thermals separated from hydro, manage the thermal. When there is the need to bring some sharing into it, then you go ahead, and that has been the position of NDC. I want to believe the transaction advisor working will recommend that we Ghanaians will majority share in these thermal plants. The Minister of Energy was here to answer a question with respect to these thermal plants. He said only one plant will be outrightly sold out. We request that he let us know what type of plant. He shouldn't pick the very good one to sell out and then leave the old ones for us to continue to manage. We would like to know which plant that they will be selling out without participation, and so that we can take an informed decision. Mr. Speaker, in wrapping up, I would like to touch something small on security, especially in the northern region, and therefore Tamale in particular. And it is respect to filling stations. It is quite worrying that by 8 o'clock, most of the filling stations in Tamale metropolis are closed because of insecurity. It's quite of a worry, and it must be looked at and taken serious. Within the last month, about 8 people were killed as a result of attack at the filling stations. We've not experienced this for a long time. Even at 10 o'clock, you get some filling stations still operating, and you'll be able to fill your gas if you travel outside the town. Today, by 8 o'clock to 8:30, you travel from Bolga, you get to Tamale, you cannot even refill your tank to continue. It's a great worry, and something must be done about it. On this note, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to contribute to the State of the Nation's address. Thank you.
Next person is a member for Tama East, Honorable ni Kwate Titus Global.
Mr. Speaker, I'm so grateful to you for the opportunity to contribute to the motion numbered 4A, that is the State of the Nation by His Excellency the President. Mr. Speaker, I will start by saying that we need to congratulate him for fulfilling his constitutional duty to come and brief the House on matters of the state. To borrow the words of His Excellency the President, and I quote, "No vivila as a vivi okodane." Mr. Speaker, I want to repeat again. No vivila as a vivi okodane. And in the statement, it is said, the translation in English, that which is important, you cook in an important pot. Uncook. Just this morning or this afternoon, I heard our chief whip, minority chief whip, saying that politicians, when we promise, we should fulfill. And what I ask myself is that, going through the statement by the President on the Eastern Corridor Road, Mr. Speaker, this is a region that is so dear to the heart of this country and very special to our colleagues opposite the aisle. This is a region that gives you much votes. But for 8 years, you abandoned this road, you left it, and today, that is the situation we find ourselves. Mr. Speaker, I drove on this road when I was coming from Yeji through the river to Makango, to Salaga, to Krachi, before I crossed to Dambai, through to Akosombo. And I was sad that for 8 years, our colleagues who had these votes from the voter region abandoned it. But I want to assure you, that is captured by His Excellency the President. Whatever it takes for him to fix that road, this is what he's saying. That he's going to look for the financial resources to fix that road, to make sure we have what we want. Mr. Speaker, when we go to page 3, we were told by His Excellency the President that 90,000 students are now benefiting from the free SHS. Mr. Speaker, I remember vividly when we were in the position we were campaigning, and the president at that time, the presidential candidate, conceptualized the idea. Mr. Speaker, the best a country can have is about its human resource. So you have a president who can say that the oil revenue that is coming, I want to use part of this money to develop the human capital of the children of this country. We need to applaud it. At that time, my colleagues opposite this aisle spent money to advertise, to say that Ghanaians should not vote for Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo because he was lying. I also remember, Mr. Speaker, a former member of this House, Honorable Liokre, even said that it's going to take Ghana 20 years for us to implement free SHS. Mr. Speaker, to God be the glory. Today, free SHS has been implemented. And I believe some of my colleagues sitting here, you have families who are benefiting from this free SHS. And your pockets are intact. I will urge you to congratulate the president from that side to make sure that whatever he's saying is a man of action and to make sure he implements it. Notwithstanding that, Mr. Speaker, he's also told us that the capitation grant has been doubled. In their time, they were not paying. Nurses and teachers training allowance has been restored. Today, if you have a member of your constituent who normally comes to knock on your door to appeal to you as a member of parliament to support him or her, you've been pushing. So the president has done something. So we need to commend him for what he has done. Mr. Speaker, when we go to the page 8, where His Excellency the President spoke about overcrowding on our roads, and for that matter, we need to do something. And coming from the Transport Ministry, Mr. Speaker, let me take this opportunity to thank the Ministries of Lands and Natural Resources and Works and Housing for allowing us to use the PWD yard, which is now going to be the bus rapid terminal termination point. Because when we load from Benton all the way to Accra Central, we don't have a termination point. As I speak to you now, demolition has gone on, contractor is on site, and we're going to turn into a modern bus terminal so that people can board buses to that part of Accra and around the Achimota and the Franco route to come and load and terminate from that area. In a way, it will help to ease the traffic we have on our roads. And again, the drive and the President's initiative to make sure that we develop the road sector, when the rail also come on board, it will contribute immensely in easing the traffic. When we talk about this rail and road sector, there's a need also to look at the ports. Because when you have congestion on our breakwaters, there's a need for us to create a space for the ships to come and berth safely, discharge their cargo off their goal. And let me say that, Mr. Speaker, yes, there's an expansion that started by the previous government. We commend you for that. Mr. Speaker, let me say that I'm saddened that the deeds of amendments on this port expansion, it is so sad. It is so sad because when GBHS started the international bidding process in 2013, over 56 companies bid. They shortened us to 20 up to 7. They are in the process of awarding the contract when an instruction came from His Excellency the President at that time that GPHA should stop and awarded the contract to MPS. Mr. Speaker, I'm saying it is unfortunate because under the deeds of amendment, GPHA has contributed more than necessary. In the lifespan of this project of 35 years, we are saving $3 billion, which GPHA will have used to do something for the port. And again, Mr. Speaker, in the first marriage of the concession agreement, which is lasting for 20 years, they've spent 11 years, we are left with 9 years. The MPS is saying under the new deed of amendment that after when they have left the first marriage into the new marriage, they still want to have what we call concessionaires' survival rights, where they want to hold on to 20% of revenue that is going to be generated from that part. And we feel that that is very unfortunate. Mr. Speaker, the contract sum of the project is at 1.5 billion, we were told, in the 6th Parliament. And Parliament went ahead to give them a waiver of $832 million. As I speak to you now, the project cost has dwindled to $1 billion. Out of this $1 billion, 687 is going to be financed from the IFC. Then the remaining will be financed from the revenue of MPS. Mr. Speaker, there's a need for us to come back to this chamber and review the waiver that we gave to this arrangement. Because the impression they gave to the government at that time, they were coming with their own money. Immediately the MOU was signed, immediately the deeds of agreement was signed, then they came back and told us that they want to go to IFC. As I speak to you, Mr. Speaker, In the terms of payment under the IFC arrangement, it is going to take them 10 years to pay off. The 25 years that is left is for them to make this country. As I speak to you, Mr. Speaker, I'm chairing a committee actioned by the EMT that the Ministry of Transport should go into this arrangement. First of all, they have diluted our shares, government shares of 30%. Under these deeds of amendment, Mr. Speaker, they have diluted it from 30% to 15% shares. Government also have 12.9% shares that they need to give to Ghana government. When NPP left office, instead of the NDs to effect that 12% back to GPG, they couldn't do it. There's a revenue that has generated, Mr. Speaker.
I want clarification.
Mr. Speaker?
Hold on. GPHA is not a political agency. So who failed to do his work? I don't like us linking it to parties because the public servants there are not politicians. So who failed to do his work? That led to Ghana's shares being diluted and then also losing. So we can track and redeem our shares.
Mr. Speaker, the shareholders of this company are to effect that through the Register General's Department, which was not done. That is why I'm saying that the committee where I'm chairing today, we are looking at all these things to make sure we bring a finality to this arrangement that is ongoing. I want to say that, Mr. Speaker, Ghana is losing. Yesterday, my brother and my good friend Agboja was saying that we should be very careful as a country that when an agreement has been signed, we should make sure we shouldn't go back into that agreement. Mr. Speaker, Honorable Agboja is behaving like a surgeon who has operated.
You refrain from making personal references to.
Mr. Speaker, what I'm saying is that, sorry with all due respect to my brother, it is just like a medical doctor or a surgeon who has operated a patient. And when the patient begins to complain that the operation that he went through is having some complications, therefore he wanted further medical review on that operation that has been done on him or her, then the doctor who did the surgery is complaining that why. What I'm saying is that there's a big problem on that concession agreement. We need to go into it and look at the interests of Ghana and GPHA. That is what I'm trying to drive here. But I believe that we will make sure the right things are done for the people of this country and to ensure that Ghana has value for money. Mr. Speaker, going forward, under the Transport Ministry, I have said it, and let me repeat again, that Agwadeke, Yeji, and Dambai are going to have landing sites for these ferries that are coming. Evaluation has been done. The contractor will be awarded. They will move to site and will start immediately. These are things that we'll be able to do together with the BRT of the 2D terminal that we are doing. The Ghana Maritime Authority is also procuring speedboats on the Volta Lake to make sure there is safety at sea. Finally, Mr. Speaker, before I take my leave, let me also say that the tree stumps that is causing a lot of deaths and destruction on the Volta Lake has also received the attention of the ministry. A contract has been awarded. We'll be removing these things, and I believe that when that is done, all these accidents we have in and on the Volta Lake will be able to stop. I'm so grateful for giving me the opportunity to contribute to the debate on the state of the nation. I'm so grateful for the opportunity.
Honorable De La Soa, to attend.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute to the debate on the State of the Nation address given by His Excellency, the President. Mr. Speaker, first of all, I want to associate myself with a statement first made by Honorable Fifi Kwete and then collaborated by Honorable Dr. Akutose that we must mind the way we do politics in this country. The way we run down politicians, running down ourselves, it is not the best at all. Government is a continuous process, It is not isolated. And I sat in this house and listened to His Excellency President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo talk about things as if they were isolated events, not giving credit to his predecessor, which even caused the minority to heckle at the time, shouting, Mahama, Mahama, Mahama. Mr. Speaker, we should be very, very careful as politicians because the image we are creating about ourselves out there is just not the best. We are giving the Ghanaians who elected us the impression that some of us politicians are not capable or we are not able to run affairs, and that is wrong. The previous government did its best and did several things in the interest of the country. For another president to come and then start saying that the things were wrong, I think it is not the best. A lot has been spoken about the reduction in the fuel price, but I want to talk about that again. The levy was introduced by the preceding government for a reason. And I sat here listening to some of my colleagues saying that the levy, they have done a reduction and people should be happy. Truth of the matter is, people cannot be happy. I cannot be happy. My fuel bill to my constituency is almost 30% of my salary, and that is very high. If even I am suffering, what about the ordinary Ghanaian on the streets? They are suffering too. If the government says that this was introduced by the previous administration and it is not right, the proper thing to do is to scrap it, not reduce it. Scrap it completely. But what do we see? A reduction. How much is the reduction? 2%. That is very small. And I don't agree with the Deputy Finance Minister that we should be appreciative no matter how small. It is not proper. 2% reduction in the cost of fuel products. It's not the best. Mr. Speaker, I remember then candidate Akufo-Addo and candidate Vice President saying in 2016 that this was insensitive. The petroleum tax or fuel price increases was insensitive. Now, a few years down the line, what do we see? We see the same and even worse. We should be mindful of what we say because it will come back to haunt us. If somebody says something, don't just say things to gain political points, but say them because they are truth. Now you come to power and then you realize that the very things you talked about are not achievable. That leaves a very, very bad dent on the Ghanaian politician. No wonder President Trump, I shudder to mention the way he described us, but it is not right. We are perceived as corrupt people who take money, stack it up in Swiss banks. How many of us here have money in Swiss banks? How many of us? And yet, the impression is always created as if all we do is to accept money and stack it outside. I think we have to change the way we do politics in Ghana, and particularly in this house. When we say things for the purpose of winning political advantage, and then we come and find that what we thought was not the case, we should be honest with ourselves and honest with the people of Ghana and let them know that what we said was not the truth. Or we have come to find that things are different from the way we saw it. But what do we see? Instead, we find reasons to still blame the preceding government, which is not the best at all. Mr. Speaker, I also want to comment slightly on TOR. I expected that Mr. President would speak about TOR, but I didn't hear anything at all about TOR in his address. TOR was doing very, very well before the election. I know that there was a fire outbreak there, but then what we hear at the Mines and Energy Committee is that there's going to be built another refinery in Takoradi. Is it what feasibility has been done? Are we just going to put in money there because we want to build another refinery? Is it proper? Have we done the cost-benefit analysis? That is one thing we have to think about, because years down the line, then we'll find that where we put the money was wrong. I also want to comment on the hate loss case. It's a case that former President Mahama took a very bold step to go to court in a boundary dispute with Ivory Coast. The case was handled expertly by Honorable Marietta Opombru. However, President came to the House and was congratulating current Attorney General. We must take cognizance that government is continuous. Government is not in isolation. And if your predecessor did something that is good, just commend the person for doing it. Because that step was a bold step to go to court. And we have the benefits of it. So as a country, Mr. Speaker, we must move away from the blame game. If you come to power knowing that you can do something, take the bull by the horn and do it. And don't find excuses for what should have been done that wasn't done. It gives politicians a very bad name. And we are all politicians. And I hate to hear people describing us in terms that I'm not like that. Mr. Speaker, with these few words, I thank you for the opportunity.
The last one for the day is Honorable Dr. Okoboy.
Very grateful, Right Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute to the State of the Nation address. Honorable Speaker, I'd first of all like to commend His Excellency the President for respecting the provision to present the State of the Nation address its session. Honorable Speaker, in 2009, when the erstwhile government took over, the growth of this country, the economic growth was 9.1% of GDP. We did, the following year, we did 5.7 and then went to 7.8. And in 2011, we recorded the highest in the world, 14% growth of GDP. Honorable Speaker, the subsequent year, we started to dwindle. We came to 9.7, 7.3, and then ended up with 3.6 in 2016. Within 13 months, Right Honorable Speaker, there's been a turnaround. Ghana recorded a growth rate of 7.9 for the 2017 fiscal year. When it comes to economic management, this is the surest indicator of how the country is doing. And you can see that with management, when it comes to management, this government is in a comfortable lead. Right Honorable Speaker, when you look at other indicators like the inflation, in 2016, we ended with 15.4% of GDP. Inflation 15.4%. In the end of 2017, we were doing 11.8. January 2018, we are now at 10.3. Inflation is trending downwards. That is also a strong indicator of an economy that is doing well. Our fiscal deficit on cash basis was 9.3 end of 2016. As we speak, 2017, we finished at 5.6. When deficit is also trending downwards, Right Honorable Speaker, you know that the government is in a comfortable lead when it comes to economic management. Right Honorable Speaker, you need to get your fundamentals right before you can support any sector of the economy. And I'm glad to mention that after having put the economy in a good shape, health is also now receiving some resuscitation. There are three key factors that determine how efficient our health system is. The first one has to do with access. And with access, you talk about the physical infrastructure, which is bed space, and also the financial access, ability to pay. Right Honorable Speaker, some few years ago, in this country, when you don't have cash at the emergency, unfortunately, you are forced to die, even when doctors can take care of you. The cash and carry system was what was pertaining in this country. The NHIS, which was introduced by the Kufuor government, suffered some setback within the past 8 years. In fact, the health insurance card, which was much treasured, now became a byword and a reproach. When you present it at the hospital, they term it and cover, meaning it doesn't cover, especially the drugs. I am happy to mention that today the National Health Insurance Scheme, which was in a comatose situation, has finally been resuscitated. And I'll give a few figures to substantiate. In 2017, a total of 908 million 71,309 Ghana cedis was paid to the National Health Insurance Scheme. Right, Honorable Speaker, half of the arrears that was accumulated by the extra government up to August 2016 was cleared through with half of this amount. Mr. Speaker, with a resuscitated health insurance scheme, you still need the right numbers in the hospital to provide care. And I am happy to mention that nurses who had sat at home for an average of 4 years in 2017 finally got a chance to put their skills at work. This government in 2017 gave allowance for a total of 15,667 health workers. And in 2018, we are going to do more than 30,000. Right, Honorable Speaker, the theme for the MPP manifesto was change, an agenda for jobs. For those nurses who finally are working as I speak, they now appreciate the real meaning of the theme for our manifesto. Right, Honorable Speaker, it is dangerous when you have a doctor or nurse who has his mind in the hospital but his heart outside the hospital. What am I trying to say? Incentives and morale is important to get health workers to give their best. And nurses particularly became the most demoralized workforce in this country because a treasure was taken away from them. I mean the allowances when they were in training schools. Most nurses started their life with these allowances. And when the extra government took it away from them, they started looking for a government that would be prepared to restore. Thankfully, they put their faith in the then MPP government, which was in opposition. And I'm happy to mention that within 13 months, through prudent economic management, we found the resources to restore the training allowances. Honorable Speaker, we are not only talking about restoration, we've also moved to the level of sustaining it and making sure that it remains as long as we exist and we are in power. Mr. Speaker, this is an interesting statement. You have a socialist inclined government that would not sustain a social program. It was not their wish to collapse it. Without prudent economic management, you will not have the resources to support a social program. And I'm happy to mention that a capitalist inclined government, through prudent management, has found the resources to restore a social program. Obviously, this is a government that is in a comfortable lead when it comes to performance. Right, Honorable Speaker, because of the culture of fiscal discipline of this government and prudent management, we've also put the energy sector in a good shape. The presence of Dumso was announced by the loud generators. In fact, anytime I presented myself at radio stations, I was met with loud gensets.
Honorable Member, hold on. Yes, Honorable.
Honorable Speaker, I come under Order 93-2. My colleague just said that it was the intention of the previous government to collapse the NHIS. Mr. Speaker, Order 93-2, it shall be out of order to use offensive, abusive, insulting, blasphemous, or unbecoming words or to impugn improper motives. Mr. Speaker, it is difficult for him. It will be difficult for him to prove that the previous government intended to collapse the NHIS. Mr. Speaker, he must withdraw and proceed appropriately.
Honorable Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I thought the Honorable Member who quoted the order will quote the order appropriately. The order reads, it shall be out of order to it shall be out of order to use offensive, abusive, insulting, blasphemous, or unbecoming words or to impute improper motives to any other member. It talks about the NDC government. If the NDC government is a member of this House. Let's see, can we go?
Honorable Member, what are the exact words you're complaining about? No. Yeah. Honorable Member Fadaklu, I want to hear the exact words you're complaining about.
Mr. Speaker, he said the previous government intentionally wanted to collapse the NHI. Mr. Speaker, we can play semantics by saying that the NDC government have no links. The previous government had no links in this House.
my leader can say that he doesn't recognize anybody in this house who is a member of NDC. But I believe, and I still believe I'm a member of NDC, though I never served in government. I believe my government is the one he's referring to. I don't have any problem with his views, but I think that it is wrong to suggest that the government intended to collapse NHIS. I don't think that is proper.
Honorable Nkoboy, do you remember exactly what you said? Because, yes.
Yeah, right, Honorable Speaker, respectfully, I never said the previous government intentionally collapsed. I said you can have a good intention of keeping it, but because of improper management, you don't have the resources to sustain. And so it collapsed. That's what I said. Yes. Improper management.
Very well. Whatever it is you complained about, there's the last part which relates to personal allusions. And I was trying to find out whether he had made any personal allusions to anybody else, not even a member. Even if he said NDC government, I wonder whether that would be a personal allusion. So I'm afraid that the objection cannot be sustained. Honourable Member, continue.
Right, Honourable Speaker, one other sector that was resuscitated, revived, and actually rejuvenated as a result of the prudent economic management is that of the energy sector. And one of the areas that get hit hard when energy suffers is that of industry and manufacturing. And I'm happy to mention that in 2015, growth in the manufacturing sector was 2.2. It increased to 2.7 in 2016 and jumped to 3.1 in 2017 as a result of the rejuvenation in the energy sector. Right, Honourable Speaker, I refer to paragraph 504 of the 2018 budget statement, and it reads, in 2017, Valco operated a single port line, employed 532 persons, and produced 40,500 tons of aluminium. Right, Honourable Speaker, Valco, which previously had become comatose, in 2017 finally got some supply and became rejuvenated, supplying 40,500 tons of aluminium. The surest indication of an economy that has woken up is to see industries that were previously closed now being opened, right, Honourable Speaker. In 2018, we are going to open a second port line to ensure that we raise production from 40,500 tons of aluminium to 81,000 metric tons. And there is good news, right, Honourable Speaker. Through the production, you have an amount of $7.5 million US, which came to the national kitty. It's going to rise to $60.1 million in 2018. Prudent economic management comes with rewards, and this is one of them. You also generate revenue. That is why this government recorded a surplus in the primary balance end of 2017 of 0.3 compared to the deficit of 1.6 of the previous government. In concluding, Mr. Speaker, in concluding, I want to say that with the right economic team under a visionary leader, it becomes clear that what was previously impossible in the past, like restoring allowances, becomes possible in another regime. And this tells us that, right, Honourable Speaker, the change that Ghanaians invested in has not been in vain.
Our common fund.
This government had made it possible for us to restore. Mr. Speaker, in concluding, I want to say that His Excellency Nana Addo Akufo-Addo has finally restored one item which has not been captured in books. That is trust in the politician. Now, when a politician says, I'm going to restore, with prudent economic team, it is possible to restore. Very grateful for the opportunity, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. I think that is all for today. Honourable Member for Yo-Yo, I can hear you from here even though you are not speaking into the mic. But when are you going to debate? When is your time? Speak to the mic.
Said I'm preparing myself towards that.
Very well.
I'm here to decide.
I'm waiting with bated breath. Yeah,
Mr. Speaker, just to remind my colleague, the Honourable Nabu, that the debate is going to be concluded on Wednesday. So please, don't get to the station when the train has already left. So please, it's either you have tomorrow and Tuesday.
Very well. Honourable Majority Leader, unless there is any announcement, I'll bring proceedings to a close.
Mr. Speaker, no particular announcement except to remind all of us that over the past 2 days, we've not been able to sit on time. Tomorrow is Friday, and we may have about 5 or 6 members from either side penciled to make contributions. So I will implore all of us to be on time tomorrow. Be able to sit at 10, latest 10:30. Maybe able to accommodate as many members as possible before we adjourn at 1:30 to allow our Muslim colleagues to visit the mosque. I thank you.
Honourable Minority Whip.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just to remind my other colleagues who should have spoken today but have not gotten the opportunity to hold their guns and prepare for tomorrow morning. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. In the circumstances, the House is adjourned until Friday, 16th of February 2018 at 10 o'clock in the forenoon.